Chapter 209 Meng Lang, Loose Immortal Realm Level 6. Before coming, Guan had already observed with his divine sense that the strongest on the island was slightly stronger than a divine soul true lord, but not by much. If there was a heaven and earth flying immortal, he would not have dared to come. If there was a heaven and earth flying immortal, then there could be an even higher realm. If the strongest on the surface was only a wandering immortal, there should not be a more terrifying existence hidden in the shadows. Even if there was, as long as Guan did not cause trouble, nothing should happen. He went to the Sea Protection Mansion in the city, intending to conduct a transaction and register for an identity token, which would allow him to enter and exit the various buildings. This was information he had gathered with his divine sense earlier. The Sea Protection Mansion was very large, with many cultivators coming and going, covering an area of 100 miles. As soon as Guan entered, a servant greeted him. "Senior, may I ask what you are here for?" "To register for an identity token." "All right, let me take you there. This way, please." The servant's demeanor was very respectful and enthusiastic. Guan followed him. There were many servants like him. Although their attire was not luxurious, it was clean and respectful. From the color of their clothes, their status in the Sea Protection Mansion could be judged. The clothes of this servant were the most common. After asking Guan if he was a newcomer, the servant began to introduce the Sea Protection Mansion and the island to him. This island was called Immortal Seeking Island, a famous neutral island in the ocean. Transactions could be conducted here safely. If something went wrong, the island master would ensure justice. Moreover, connections could be made with great sects such as the Star Sea Congregations, Seven Stars Spirit Realm, and Deep Sea Spirit Palace. When introducing the background of Immortal Seeking Island, the servant was not arrogant, remaining humble, which Guan found impeccable. When Guan asked for his name, the servant was flattered and quickly introduced himself. Actually, even without his introduction, Guan already knew, but it was necessary to go through the formalities. Hu Xiaojian, Nascent Soul Realm, second layer 480/860/2200. A lifespan of this extent could make him a genius in the Supreme Sect, but on Immortal Seeking Island, he could only serve as a servant. Guan sighed inwardly. "By the way, Senior, have you reached the Immortal Path Realm? If so, I can guide you to obtain a high-rank identity token which comes with various benefits." Hu Xiaojian asked cautiously. He could tell from Guan's extraordinary bearing, though not overbearing, that Guan was likely a great cultivator who had returned to simplicity. Guan responded affirmatively, making Hu Xiaojian even more excited. After the time it takes for an incense stick to burn, under Hu Xiaojian's guidance, Guan arrived at a large hall where most of the cultivators coming and going were in the Mahayana realm or Nirvana realm. The Nirvana realm cultivators were likely outsiders like Guan, while the Mahayana realm cultivators belonged to the Sea Protection Mansion. As for loose immortals, they were rare to encounter. Hu Xiaojian approached an elderly man and explained Guan's intention. The elder immediately stood up and led the two to a side hall. Chu Feng, Nirvana realm, 5th layer 3860/15,000/17,000. Guan silently noted this information, then followed Chu Feng. Chu Feng took a white jade token, uninscribed, from a redwood cabinet, handed it to Guan and said, "Inject your mana into this, then silently recite your name to register." Guan took the white jade token, adjusted his cultivation level, and injected his mana. After a few breaths, he raised the identity token to show Chu Feng. "Meng Lang, Loose Immortal Realm, 6th layer." Chu Feng read aloud, then quickly raised his hand in salute, respectfully addressing him as senior. Hu Xiaojian was even more excited, also saluting. Guan put away the identity token and casually asked, "I heard there are many benefits to a high-rank identity token?" Chu Feng nodded and respectfully introduced the benefits of a high-rank identity token. Tax transaction discounts, permanent cave residence, allocation of 5 servants, and more. Guan was very pleased with what he heard and ultimately decided to have Hu Xiaojian lead the way, making Hu Xiaojian feel flattered while Chu Feng smiled and encouraged Hu Xiaojian. Thus, Guan began his procurement journey on Immortal Seeking Island. First, he had to exchange for spirit stones. It was worth mentioning that on Immortal Seeking Island, the basic currency was a top-grade spirit stone. Low-grade and mid-grade spirit stones were not allowed here. Low-rank cultivators did not even have the qualification to enter the island. A harsh reality. But on second thought, who below the nascent soul realm could cross the ocean to reach Immortal Seeking Island? Immortal Seeking Island was surrounded by millions of miles of sea, with no other islands around. As for the mainland, it was even farther away. To Hu Shaojian, the seven-star spirit realm was a distant power. He had heard most about the star sea congregations, the overlords of the ocean. In the evening, Gu En returned to Mystic Valley. Purchasing medicinal herbs took time, not a one-time deal. However, Immortal Seeking Island had plenty of high-rank medicinal herbs, even offering 9th-rank medicinal herbs, enough to meet Gu En's needs. It was said that every few decades, Immortal Path spirit trees might even be auctioned on Immortal Seeking Island. After greeting the disciples in the valley, he went upstairs. Once the procurement was done, it would be time to publish Journey to the West. Today's trip to Immortal Seeking Island had put Gu En in a good mood. Using the name Meng Lang was a way to commemorate an old friend. He was not worried about being recognized. Most people who knew Gu En would never reach Immortal Seeking Island in their lifetimes. As for geniuses like Shen Tianyi and Hao, without advancing to the Immortal Path realm, they would find it difficult to come. If Shen Tianyi had connections with the Star Sea congregations, he might have the chance to go to Immortal Seeking Island, but he had never heard of Meng Lang. Gu En thought that many years later, if he met Shen Tianyi overseas, Shen Tianyi's expression would be interesting. Speaking of Shen Tianyi, that guy was still recovering from his injuries in the Supreme Sect. Who knows when he would recover his strength? Gu En set aside these thoughts and focused on writing. A month later, having just turned 98, Gu En came to Nianshu Cave. He found Tian Yaoer and brought her into his grotto heaven, then took out a large number of medicinal herb seeds and handed them to her for planting. Looking at the multitude of seeds, Tian Yaoer's eyes widened, her breath quickening. How long will this take to plant? Gu En had spent all his wealth, yet only a quarter of it was used. He chuckled softly. These seeds are at least 7th order. Be careful, if you ruin any, they'll have to hold you accountable. 7th order. 7th order? Tian Yaoer was stunned, then thrilled. With so many high-rank medicinal herbs properly planted, the spiritual energy here would be abundant, wouldn't it? She immediately began to take action. Gu En, on the other hand, infused his mana into the ground, converting it into 5-element spiritual energy. Relying solely on the grotto heaven to absorb earth spirit energy was too slow. Fortunately, the heaven and earth primordial skill documented a sorcery on how to convert mana into spiritual energy. Busy days awaited. Time flew by, and the immortal cultivation world welcomed a period of peace. In the blink of an eye, 2 years had passed. Gu En's total lifespan had reached 6,700,000 years. He had planted all the high-rank medicinal herbs he had purchased in his grotto heaven, but the maturity time for 7th-order medicinal grass was extremely long, so he had to be patient. Though the wait was long, once harvested, it would be an enormous amount of lifespan. Moreover, 7th-order medicinal grass had a strong life force and required little oversight. That year, the Supreme Sect had grown much stronger. Meanwhile, the Taizong dynasty and the Tianwei dynasty had begun to war, while the Great Jiang dynasty remained stable, not participating in the conflict. The dynastic struggles were cruel but not a catastrophe, having no impact on the immortal cultivation world. Gu En planned to achieve core formation that year. His surface cultivation level needed to be improved. One day at noon, Shen Tianyi came to visit Gu En. As they entered the house to chat, Shen Tianyi cast many restrictions first. He was now the strongest cultivator in the Supreme Sect but still deployed many restrictions, indicating his awareness of several great cultivators infiltrating the Supreme Sect. Did you see the celestial phenomenon from that battle? Shen Tianyi turned to Gu En and asked solemnly. Gu En nodded, then motioned for him to sit and talk. Bam! Shen Tianyi slammed the table in fury, cursing. I was schemed against by the 7 stars spirit realm. A bunch of bastards. This isn't over. Guan's eyelids twitched. Why are you telling me this? He suddenly suspected that the Divine Soul True Lord's hostility towards him a few months ago was due to investigating Shen Tiany's connections. The Seven Stars Spirit Realm? Are you talking about the Holy Land? Guan asked cautiously. Shen Tiany sat down, took a deep breath, and said, Yes. I was thrown into the evil demon's sealing ground by cultivators from the Seven Stars Spirit Realm. If not for Sword Venerable Fudeo's intervention, they would have wanted to eliminate me completely. How hateful! Divine Soul True Lord. Just you wait. Guan said worriedly. The Holy Land is powerful. You mustn't be reckless. Even the entire Supreme Sect wouldn't be enough. Shen Tiany looked at him and snorted. I know that, but I'm not just a disciple of the Supreme Sect. I'm also a disciple of the Star Sea congregations. My peers have already infiltrated the Supreme Sect. I'm planning to head south and inform my master about this. The Star Sea congregations and the Seven Stars Spirit Realm both follow the righteous path and do not harm the common people. I will ensure the Seven Stars Spirit Realm doesn't have it easy. How bold! You have a backer and you didn't say so earlier? Forcing me to take risks? Guan complained inwardly, feeling helpless. Shen Tiany, seeing through his thoughts, said with a hint of regret. After all, it is the Seven Stars Spirit Realm. Without a legitimate reason, the Star Sea congregations would not act. I don't have that kind of influence, but if I had evidence, it would be different. Anyway, the Seven Stars Spirit Realm won't have a good time coming. Guan cautioned him. Though I don't know how powerful the Star Sea congregations are, be careful. The journey south is long. If anything happens on the way... He didn't finish his sentence, but Shen Tiany understood. No worries. I will be accompanied by other disciples of the Star Sea congregations, and there will be Immortal Path seniors overseeing from abroad. The Seven Stars Spirit Realm won't dare to act rashly. Shen Tiany reassured him. Guan felt relieved. Shen Tiany then said, You focus on your cultivation. Someday, it'll take you into the Star Sea congregations. You might gain immortal destiny. Guan shook his head. Forget it. The ocean is a place for the high and mighty. As a mere mortal, I'll stay in the Supreme Sect. I don't want to be a burden. Shen Tiany tried to persuade him further but was diverted by Guan, who asked him when he would return. Shen Tiany said it depended on the situation, ranging from a few years to several decades. But he would definitely return, as his next goal was to help develop the Supreme Sect. Although he was angry, he saw this as an opportunity. If the Star Sea congregations pressured the Seven Stars Spirit Realm, the Supreme Sect could develop. Even though he now belonged to the Star Sea congregations, he wanted to help the Supreme Sect. In any case, he believed that no matter how the Supreme Sect developed, it could never catch up to the Star Sea congregations. Chapter 210. Journey to the West emerges. Shocking the world, Guan chatted with Shen Tiany for a full 2 ancient hours. Before leaving, Guan even gave him half a set of Journey to the West. So many years had passed, he had already written Journey to the West, but he wanted to release it later and kept refining his calligraphy, so he had rewritten Journey to the West many times. The reason for giving Shen Tiany only half was because he was afraid Shen Tiany might leak it. Always leave some suspense. After Shen Tiany left, Guan followed downstairs and rode the Blood Prison Great Saint to the Mystic Valley. Yilan was waiting for him in the pavilion. He dismounted from the Blood Prison Great Saint's back and leisurely went upstairs. When the two met, they exchanged pleasantries. Over the past year, Yilan had been very busy and could only come to see him during the spring festival. Senior brother, you are turning 100 this year. How about a celebration? Yilan asked with a smile. Guan shook his head and said, Why would a cultivator celebrate a big birthday? No need, I don't like trouble. Yilan nodded and didn't press further. She just mentioned it casually. After all, 100 years was an important milestone. They started chatting. Yilan didn't have any special reason to see Guan. She just missed him. They talked about everything from the Supreme Sect to the immortal cultivation world, and even about the common folk. Most of the time, Yilan did the talking, and Guan chimed in. A long time passed. Guwen was concerned about her primordial reincarnation skill. Yilan said that she practiced it daily, although her cultivation level hadn't increased. She could feel the accumulation of the primordial reincarnation skill. Guwen took out a large number of prepared supreme-grade elixirs for her, telling her to take them promptly. In 20 years, she would need to unseal the primordial reincarnation skill. By then, it was unknown how much her maximum lifespan would increase. Faced with Guwen's gifts and arrangements, Yilan did not refuse and instead showed a happy smile. Seeing her smile, Guwen couldn't help but shiver. "Junior sister, don't misunderstand. I will always be your senior brother," Guwen said seriously. Yilan nodded with a smile. She stood up, walked to Guwen's side, and placed her hands on his shoulders. It had always been him who patted others' shoulders. Only his junior sister could pat his. Well, she was his junior sister after all. "Sit down, no hands on." "Oh, senior brother, I won't do anything inappropriate, just like last time." "You dare mention last time? What's wrong with a little touch? I promise I won't go further." "Don't speak such bold words. Sit down. I have something to tell you." "Say it. He'll just stand by your side." 3 days later, Guwen rode the blood prison great saint to the outer gate city. He made his way to the book collection hall. The great elder of the book collection hall, Fengshang, personally received Guwen. After they were seated, Fengshang asked with a smile, "Shattering the Void is finished. Do you have a new book in mind?" Though Shattering the Void's reputation wasn't as great as Investiture of the Gods, it made a lot of money, benefiting not only him but the entire Outer Gate City as well. Their Outer Gate City had become the top among the 8 Outer Gate cities, with Sword Venerable Fudao in martial and Pan and in literature. Every time he read Investiture of the Gods, Fengshang felt Guwen resembled Sword Venerable Fudao. But thinking that Guwen was not yet 100 years old, he found his speculation absurd. Though perhaps Pan was somehow related to Sword Venerable Fudao, maybe this was why Pan refused to write about Sword Venerable Fudao, fearing people might discover the connection. Guwen took out 5 books from his storage bag, which were the first half of Journey to the West. Fengshang picked up the topmost book and, seeing the cover, he couldn't help but read aloud, "Journey to the West?" The name sounded ordinary. He was a bit disappointed, but considering Pan's fame, even an ordinary book would earn spirit stones. He began to read, and after a few moments, his expression changed slightly. He straightened his back and read more intently. As time went on, his right hand began to tremble. When he read about Sun Wukong causing havoc in the Heavenly Palace, he couldn't help but slap his thigh in excitement. Guwen shook his head and laughed. He stood up and said, "The books are yours. Leave the rest to you." Having worked with the book collection hall for so many years, he naturally didn't worry about them deceiving him. Upon hearing this, Fengshang quickly stood up, excitedly saying, "Journey to the West will definitely be a hit. This is a divine book comparable to Investiture of the Gods. No, it's even better than Investiture of the Gods." Journey to the West had a stronger narrative ability and the plot was highly engaging. Watching Sun Wukong's birth, his struggle for kingship, and his journey to the sea to seek immortality, he felt it resonated well with the cultivators in the immortal cultivation world. Furthermore, when the heavenly court appointed Sun Wukong as the horse's fortune, and he endured humiliation in heaven, he couldn't help but anticipate Sun Wukong's rebellion. He hadn't expected Sun Wukong to actually cause havoc in the heavenly palace. It was truly powerful. Fengshang genuinely admired Guwen, who could think of anything. Moreover, the spells, dharma treasures, and powers in Journey to the West felt real, as he had heard similar legends before. There were stories of a dragon palace under the sea, immortals in the heavens, and sages overseas, among others. Guwen smiled at him and, without saying much, turned and left. Fengshang watched Guwen walk out the door, with sunlight shining on him, feeling dazed. Truly an immortal. Guwen found the blood prison great saint and rode it away from the book collection hall. Along the street, he occasionally encountered old acquaintances, greeting them with a smile. After the Ji family withdrew from the Supreme sect, the Zhou family also switched to the Zhangtian sect. The departure of the two great families happened quietly. Had it been decades earlier, the supreme sect would have been severely weakened, but now there didn't seem to be any impact. Instead, the supreme sect had grown even stronger. However, Gu and heard other family names from the passing cultivators. This was the supreme sect. When some left, others would take their place. This was a sign of continuous prosperity. Who knew when the supreme sect would reach the levels of the seven-star spirit realm and the star sea congregations? At that time, how many of his old acquaintances would still be around? Guana's thoughts drifted with the bumping of the ox's back, fantasizing about scenes thousands or even tens of thousands of years in the future. A blink of an eye, another year passed. This year, the Supreme Sect's first Under Heaven's Cultivation level tournament was about to commence, but the hottest topic was a book. Journey to the West. With the release of Pan-An's Journey to the West, the entire immortal cultivation world was shaken. Initially thought to be another mediocre book like Supreme Immortal Venerable or Shattering the Void, it turned out to be a classical type like Investiture of the Gods. Great Sage equaling Heaven's Son Wukong became the most popular name in the Three Dynasties immortal cultivation world. Pan-En was once again elevated to a godlike status. With just one journey to the West, people no longer doubted his talent, and some even claimed that Journey to the West was superior to Investiture of the Gods. LV Badian seized the opportunity to leverage the popularity of Journey to the West, declaring that the person who won the top spot in the first Under Heaven's Cultivation level tournament would earn the title of Great Sage. This ignited even more interest and anticipation for the first Under Heaven's Cultivation level tournament. Because of Journey to the West, Pan-An's fame within the Supreme Sect even overshadowed Sword Venerable Fudao for a while. Pan-An had initiated a trend of book chasing in the immortal cultivation world. Now, he once again outshone Sword Venerable Fudao through his literary work. In fact, many immortal cultivation stories had emerged after Pan-An, but most cultivators still felt Pan-An's writings were the best. Guan thought this was due to the initial euphoria of the first read, as the immortal cultivation world certainly had many literary talented cultivators. One day, Guan rode the Blood Prison Great Saint once again to the Outer Gate City. He felt there would be some excitement to watch today. The city was bustling with people, cultivators coming and going ceaselessly, very lively, almost like celebrating the spring festival. Guan saw many cultivators in strange costumes, and even shape-shifting demons. Now, the Supreme Sect had begun recruiting demon clan disciples with great results. Each year, around 10,000 shape-shifting demons would come to apprentice. The main character in Journey to the West being a demon had made the entire demon community more favorable towards the Supreme Sect. Arriving at the surroundings of the heavenly repair platform, the Blood Prison Great Saint halted. He heard people around talking. "Have you read Journey to the West? The book collection hall put up another batch yesterday, and I managed to get a copy." "Then lend it to me. I read an unofficial version that doesn't contain Pan-An's handwriting. Recently, more and more people have been challenging the heaven-cutting axe. They say that whoever can lift the heaven-cutting axe can secure the top spot in the first Under Heaven's Cultivation level tournament." "You're joking. Even the champion can't possibly lift the heaven-cutting axe." Some were talking about Journey to the West, some about Sword Venerable Fudao, but most were discussing the first Under Heaven's Cultivation level tournament. Guan silently counted down. After a while, he thought to himself, here it comes. A dominating aura enveloped the heavenly repair platform, followed by a loud voice that echoed throughout the city. "I am the foremost cultivator of Lingxia. Qiao Dai. All of you move aside. I want to challenge the heaven-cutting axe." Boom! The entire city trembled. Everyone looked towards the sky above the heavenly repair platform and saw a majestic figure floating in the air. It was a man in a yellow robe, wearing a golden crown and a python belt, with an aura like a swirling dragon around him. Guan cast a lifespan detection spell on him. "Qiao Dai, Mahayana Realm 9th Layer 898/8900/8900, an extreme lifespan of 8,900 years. Among Nirvana dead, he was second only to An Hao and the Blood Prison Great Saint, even surpassing Shen Tianyi. Guan could feel that this person contained chi blood beyond the Mahayana realm. Of course, it was only beyond. Reaching the Nirvana realm was impossible. The weakest in the Nirvana realm was stronger than the strongest in the Mahayana realm. This was the barrier between the mortal and the immortal. People around the heaven-cutting axe gave way, and Chao Dai descended. Many were discussing where Lingxia was. Guan knew about Lingxia. It was the dynasty in the far north of the continent, created by the Seven Stars Spirit Realm. Everyone in that dynasty was a descendant of the Seven Stars Spirit Realm cultivators. But the territories of the three dynasties hadn't interacted with Lingxia yet. Zhou Yijian stood beside the heaven-cutting axe, eyeing Chao Dai. Chao Dai exuded an emperor's aura, and with each step, a dragon's roar accompanied him, which made Zhou Yijian secretly marvel. When he reached the heaven-cutting axe, Chao Dai didn't try to lift it immediately. Instead, he looked at Zhou Yijian and said, "Move away, so you don't get hurt." "You?" Zhou Yijian was instantly infuriated, crumpling the journey to the west in his hand. An elder in the unification realm appeared out of thin air and said, "Listen to him. Everyone back off." Upon hearing this, Zhou Yijian reluctantly retreated. The cultivators meditating around the righteous words also got up, including Dixia. Ji Hantian appeared among the crowd, watching Chao Dai with solemn eyes. The Ji family had close ties with the Seven Star Spirit Realm, and he had met Chao Dai in the Seven Star Spirit Realm. At that time, he was still young, and Chao Dai was already the most famous genius in the Seven Star Spirit Realm. Though most of the Ji family had joined the Seven Star Spirit Realm, Ji Hantian had a strong aversion to it, which made him dislike Chao Dai. He couldn't help but say, "Without immortal path cultivation, don't dream of challenging." Chapter 211. The unfathomable Gu and Chao Dai ignored Ji Hantian's provocation and fixed his gaze on the heaven-cutting axe. Everyone looked at him. Over the years, there were countless cultivators who came to challenge the heaven-cutting axe, but few had such a commanding presence like him. The number one cultivator in Lingxia, it sounded quite intimidating. Though Chao Dai appeared calm, in fact, he was very nervous inside. In recent years, Sword Venerable Fudao's prestige was incredibly strong, spreading widely even within the spirit realm. Chao Dai knew he could not possibly be a match for Sword Venerable Fudao, but since the heaven-cutting axe was merely a treasure left behind by Sword Venerable Fudao, he still had confidence in lifting it. He raised his right hand and gripped the handle of the axe. At the moment he grasped it, he felt an unprecedented heaviness. His brows furrowed, and he immediately began to exert force. Rumble. The heavenly repair platform quaked, and everyone watched him nervously. No matter which sect they were from, the cultivators on the platform did not want him to lift it. The disciples of the Supreme Sect cared about face, while disciples from other sects cared about opportunity. Who wouldn't want to become the heir of Sword Venerable Fudao? To this day, Sword Venerable Fudao had become a figure of worship for all sects under three dynasties. Under Guan, the Blood Prison Great Saint secretly marveled. He too wanted to try lifting the heaven-cutting axe. So far, the only person he couldn't surpass was the one on his back. This fellow named Chao Dai was different. The Blood Prison Great Saint could sense that Chao Dai's cultivation level was even higher than his own. If Chao Dai couldn't move the axe, then he would have no hope. This made him even more wary of Sword Venerable Fudao. Just leaving a Dharma treasure on the platform, and over the years, no one could lift it, let alone move it. It was unimaginable how high Sword Venerable Fudao's cultivation realm must be. Chao Dai also started using a secret technique, making his momentum soar, causing even the outer city to tremble. More and more figures appeared on the heavenly repair platform, all high-ranking members of the Supreme Sect. They looked at Chao Dai with eyes full of fear. But as they watched, the great cultivators of the Supreme Sect began to smile. The momentum was terrifying, but it was useless. If it couldn't be lifted, it just couldn't be lifted. Zhou Yijian watched Chao Dai's contorted face with silent glee. Let him be arrogant. With such limited skills, he dared to challenge the heaven-cutting axe? In the end, Chao Dai did not become like Shen Tianyi or Ji Shenling. He only attempted for a few breaths before his momentum suddenly receded. He stood straight, withdrew his right hand, and said, "As expected of sword venerable Fu Dao, I, Xiao Dai, admit defeat." His voice echoed throughout the city, resonating endlessly. Even though his words were boastful, many people wanted to ask who he was, having never heard of him before. But recalling Xiao Dai's earlier momentum, no one dared offend him. Not daring to offend Xiao Dai, they all praised sword venerable Fu Dao instead. Suddenly, the heavenly repair platform became lively, and everyone started discussing the strength of sword venerable Fu Dao. Xiao Dai looked at Ji Hantian and snorted. "Where is your sect leader? I want to meet him." Ji Hantian nodded, then motioned for Xiao Dai to follow. The two quickly left the outer city. Guwen patted the back of the blood prison great saint, signaling it could go. After leaving the outer city, Guwen said leisurely, "In a few years, I will let you reach the second level, able to speak human words." Hearing this, the blood prison great saint's eyes brightened. Not being able to speak was really unbearable. He couldn't wait to curse those ants who kept touching him all day long. "But remember, there are things you can say and things you can't," Guwen reminded. The blood prison great saint nodded quickly. Actually, there wasn't much he could say, as he had no idea how strong Guwen really was. Day by day passed, and it came to the end of summer. On the peak of the mountain north of Mystic Valley, Guwen was sparring with Chu Jingfeng in swordsmanship. While swinging his sword, Guwen's divine sense spread out, surveying the continent inside and out. He saw a heaven and earth flying immortal traversing the sky, descending to the mortal world at the eastern end of the firmament. Over the years, he saw many figures coming and going between heaven and earth. Though heaven and earth flying immortals were rare, at his level, he could see at least one every day, showing how vast this mortal world was. Heaven and earth flying immortals were not the strongest. Even at the heaven and earth flying immortal realm, Guwen's divine sense could not cover the entire mortal world. No wonder it was called the Great Heavenly Spirit Land. This mortal world was truly vast. For Guwen, the bigger this world was, the better. The larger the world, the smaller and more insignificant he felt. After a while, Guwen sensed a vast aura erupting from the eastern direction, far from the continent, even farther than a mortal-seeking island. But that aura made his heart tremble. It was very powerful. It didn't seem like the aura of a living being's cultivation, but rather some kind of supreme treasure. Could it be that someone from beyond the heavens came for this mysterious supreme treasure? It seemed highly possible to Guwen. At this moment, Chu Jingfeng sheathed his sword, gasping, "I'm exhausted, can't match you." He looked at Guwen with a complex expression. Every time he felt his swordsmanship had improved significantly, he would spar with Guwen. Each time it seemed he was about to win, but the result was always defeat. The two competed in swordsmanship without using spiritual power, purely relying on qi. Of course, if he couldn't defeat Guwen before his qi was depleted, it meant his swordsmanship wasn't superior to Guwen's. Guwen smiled. "Just a little more, you are much stronger than before." Chu Jingfeng wiped the sweat off his forehead and stared at Guwen, asking, "Do you mean you are also improving, or have you been holding back?" He increasingly felt that Guwen was unfathomable. Initially, he was merely grateful to Guwen, but now he felt Guwen was either a peerless genius or a high-level cultivator hiding his cultivation. He thought back to the years when the demon of greed caused chaos. The demon of greed had perished in Guwen's house, but to this day, no one discovered who had saved Guwen. Could it be Guwen himself? Guwen laughed. "Hey, I'm at the 9th level of the Foundation Establishment realm, about to reach core formation. Isn't it normal to beat you? Don't forget, I'm ranked 500th on the golden list." Seeing his smug expression, Chu Jingfeng couldn't help but shake his head and smile. Right, why overthink? In any case, he was now a cripple weaker than everyone. After chatting for a while longer, Guwen gripped his heavenly resident sword and descended the mountain, while Chu Jingfeng sat meditating on the cliff, reflecting on his earlier sword-fighting experiences. The next morning, the first Heavenly Strength Tournament officially began. It was said that over 50,000 cultivators and demons had signed up, covering all realms. There were even mysterious Mahayana cultivators participating. Guwen did not participate. Instead, he headed to Tinya Valley to harvest medicinal herbs. This year, he aimed to reach a lifespan of 7 million years. After surpassing the 10 million year mark, he could look forward to a billion-year lifespan. A billion years would bring new abilities, the next time could be 10 billion or even 100 billion years for new functions. The thought was exciting to Guwen. If a billion years passed in the real world, how high would his cultivation level be? The sky was clear, and the ocean was boundless. Immortal Seeking Island sat on the ocean, small as a speck of dust. But when viewed up close, its prosperity was evident. Guwen returned to Immortal Seeking Island and exchanged all the medicinal herbs he had gathered over the past 3 years for top-grade spirit stones, then began to wander around. He planned to buy some high-quality cultivation elixirs to help Yilan and Xiaochuan. As for others, he wouldn't go out of his way to help them. Enjoying the elixirs he personally refined was good enough. Hu Xiaojin continued to lead the way for Guwen, full of enthusiasm. By the way, Senior, several months ago, a conflict broke out between the Star Sea congregations and the Seven-Star Spirit Realm. Have you heard about it? Hu Xiaojian asked suddenly, his expression excited. Guwen answered, I've been secluded in training, unaware of this. Why did they clash? Hu Xiaojian lowered his voice. It said that a disciple of the Star Sea congregations was killed by the Seven Stars Spirit Realm. So a group of Star Sea congregation cultivators attacked islands affiliated with the Seven Stars Spirit Realm. They fought for 3 days and nights. Many say the Star Sea congregations and Seven Stars Spirit Realm are going to war. They have been at peace for 50,000 years, who knows if it's true. If these two top forces go to war, this ocean will be far from peaceful. Guwen first thought of Shen Tianyi. Was Shen Tianyi's capability so great? On second thought, yes, a Mahayana cultivator of several hundred years was rare. Even on the ocean, he would be a top-tier talent. On Immortal Seeking Island, Guwen had only seen a few. The two continued chatting as they moved forward. An hour later, Guwen had spent all his spirit stones, reaping abundant rewards. Spending on his junior brothers and sisters, he felt no regret, even if they were destined to die. He was willing to help them live a few hundred or thousand years longer. After dismissing Hu Xiaojian, Guwen began to wander Immortal Seeking Island on his own. Immortal Seeking Island was large with numerous cities. Cultivators, demons, and spirit beasts were everywhere, making the streets very lively. Suddenly, someone brushed past Guwen due to the person's peculiar attire. Guwen subconsciously threw a lifespan detection. Nine-Finger Divine Lord, second layer of Traveling Immortal Realm 170800/19000/8000000 17,000 years? Was this 80,000-year maximum lifespan serious? Guwen was intrigued. The person's apparent cultivation was only at the Mahayana realm. Even as a 9th-level heaven and earth flying immortal realm great cultivator, Guwen couldn't see through his true cultivation level, indicating this man's greatness. Of course, it was also possible that this person was not a wandering immortal, but had his cultivation level fall due to some reason. Guwen thought the latter was more likely. He didn't turn back and continued forward. However, the Nine-Finger Divine Lord stopped. He wore a black outfit like a wanderer. His clothes were not fancy, somewhat old, with a bamboo hat and a large wooden box on his back. He looked back, frowning under his hat, eyes filled with confusion. Was it a misperception? The Nine-Finger Divine Lord felt someone watching him earlier but saw no one when he looked back. The strongest on this street was just a loose immortal. He retracted his gaze and continued on his way. 30 minutes later, he arrived at a residence and met a man in a purple robe in the courtyard. "Senior, please have a seat," the purple-robed man said with a smile respectfully. The Nine-Finger Divine Lord sat down, placing the large wooden box beside him. He calmly asked, "What business do you have with me?" The purple-robed man sat, waved his right hand, and a purple light barrier rose around the courtyard, then quickly disappeared. He looked at the nine-fingered divine lord and whispered, "Senior, I have a lead on the immortal path supreme treasure you sought before. It is somewhat troublesome. It involves the 7 stars spirit realm. Do you dare to venture there?" Chapter 212 Strange Aura. After brushing past the nine-fingered divine lord, Gu quickly left Immortal Seeking Island. Although the nine-fingered divine lord couldn't threaten him at the moment, his age of 170,000 years made Gu reluctant to associate with him. Gu had no need to make connections with great powers. He just wanted to avoid trouble. After returning to the Supreme Sect, he went to watch the first cultivation conference every few days and found it quite interesting. The Supreme Sect created different treasures according to different realms, and it was said that the materials were brought from overseas by Shen. The heaviest was a Mahayana realm treasure, heavier than a mountain. Because of this, the Supreme Sect also specially opened a venue and set up layers of restrictions to prevent the ground from collapsing. Since there was no combat, the first cultivation conference didn't last as long as previous events. In less than half a month, Xiao Dai won the first place and was conferred the title of Great Sage of the Heavenly Peak by the Supreme Sect. Afterwards, Xiao Dai announced his decision to join the Supreme Sect and become an elder, which took Gu by surprise. What is the 7 stars spirit realm up to? Sending a Mahayana realm cultivator to the Supreme Sect for no reason? Or are they planting a pawn? Gu didn't ask LV Badian. Even if Xiao Dai had bad intentions, he wasn't afraid. It only took one move to kill the Divine Soul True Lord, and it would be the same for Xiao Dai. However, after autumn arrived, Jihantian brought Xiao Dai to find Gu, who happened to be in, so he received them in his building. Xiao Dai sat at the table, looked around the environment, and asked, "Are you Pan?" Gu, carrying a cup of tea to the table, responded, "I am Pan, and may I ask what business you have with me, senior?" The Ji family had switched allegiance to the 7 stars spirit realm, and now Jihantian brought Xiao Dai to find him, which made him think deeply. "Sit down and talk," Jihantian said with a warm smile, even taking the initiative to pour tea for the two of them. Gu sat down and looked at Xiao Dai. Xiao Dai scrutinized him with an oppressive gaze. "What do you think of the Holy Land, 7 stars spirit realm?" Xiao Dai asked. Gu was stunned and replied, "The 7 stars spirit realm is called a holy land. Naturally, I respect it. Why do you ask me this?" Xiao Dai said, "Is Master Beauty from the Oblique Moon 3 Stars Cave in your writing meant to pay homage to the 7 stars spirit realm?" Master Beauty was the teacher of Sun Wukong, the protagonist of Journey to the West. Ever since Journey to the West became a hit, Master Beauty was often mentioned. Some even firmly believed that the Oblique Moon 3 Stars Cave, the Spirit Platform, and Square Inch Hill truly existed. Gu nodded. Since the Ji family had turned to the 7 star spirit realm, and Xiao Dai came from the 7 star spirit realm, Gu naturally had to go along with their thoughts. If these two still had doubts about him, he could only have Sword Venerable Fudao take action. Seeing Gu nod, Xiao Dai didn't seem pleased. Instead, he frowned and said, "Actually, the 7 star spirit realm is not as good as you think." Upon hearing this, Gu looked at him in amazement. What does this mean? Could it be that Xiao Dai harbored enmity toward the 7 star spirit realm? Jihantian chimed in. "The previous great calamity of demons is related to the 7 stars spirit realm. We sought you out because we feared you esteemed the 7 star spirit realm too much, and there are some things we need to tell you." Without waiting for Gu to respond, Jihantian explained the origins of the demon ancestor and evil demon, leaving Gu dumbfounded. Gu actually knew this long ago but had to act surprised while contemplating their intentions. After Jihantian finished, Xiao Dai said, "The actions of the 7 stars spirit realm disgust me deeply. Ever since I embarked on the immortal cultivation path, I wanted to be an immortal who saves the world. That was also why I chose to join the 7 stars spirit realm. But a friend of mine exposed the crimes of the 7 stars spirit realm. He came from the Lin family, whose ancestor was slain by Sword Venerable Fudao after attacking the Supreme Sect. Later, during the siege of the evil demon, the Lin family suffered heavy losses. Taking advantage of this, Their adversaries within the seven-star spirit realm sought to exterminate them. Before fleeing, my friend left me a letter exposing the general misdeeds committed by the high-ups of the Six Stars Cave against the Lin family. It took me years to fully accept these facts. Guwen felt a sigh of lament at hearing that the Lin family had been abandoned by the Seven Stars spirit realm. Of course, the Lin family's annihilation was not undeserved, just infighting among dogs. Guwen furrowed his brow and said, I am merely a minor cultivator in the Foundation establishment realm. Why are you telling me this? Cannot help you. Don't think of using Panaya's name to expose the Holy Land. I cannot afford to provoke them. Ji Hantian smiled. Rest assured, we are not that reckless. The Seven Stars spirit realm is currently too powerful, and even the combined forces of the three dynasties can't shake it. We just hope you won't exalt the Seven Stars spirit realm in your books in the future. Xiao Dai nodded and said, Exactly. Your influence is truly great. I used to disdain it until I read your investiture of the gods and journey to the west, only then realizing your prowess. However, I liked your supreme immortal venerable the most. The story of a comeback is more captivating. So that's what it's about. Guwen found it both laughable and exasperating. It was just a coincidence. In fact, he was subtly hinting that the seven-star spirit realm resembled the Buddhism sect of Western Heaven. He pretended to contemplate and then reluctantly agreed to the matter. Seeing Guwen seemingly hesitant, Ji Hantian and Xiao Dai didn't get angry. They too took a long time to process this information when they first learned about it. Not only did they have to expose the evil side of the seven-star spirit realm, but they also had to endure the pressure of confronting it directly. This was, after all, the most powerful force on the continent with no equal. Guwen couldn't help but ask, if the seven-star spirit realm wishes to enslave all beings, why engage in such roundabout methods? Even the combined forces of our three dynasties are no match for them, right? Xiao Dai replied, Not all of the Seven Stars spirit realm is evil. On the ocean, it remains a holy land of the righteous path. Our continent is merely one region of the Seven Stars spirit realm, governed by the Six Stars Cave and Seven Stars Cave. Over the past tens of thousands of years, the high-ups of the Six Stars Cave sought extreme ways to break through the heavenly destiny, deceiving superiors and subordinates, leading to these consequences. In the unseen world, there exists chi fortune and incense. If the beings of the continent detest the seven-star spirit realm, the other star caves would surely notice. If the beings are exterminated, it would also attract the attention of surrounding forces. Fire can't be wrapped in paper, and most cultivators within the seven-star spirit realm are unaware of this, considering themselves disciples of the righteous path. Once again, it was the parasites within the righteous path committing atrocities, but the parasites of the seven-star spirit realm were in existence that the beings of the continent couldn't contend with. Guwen feigned a sudden realization, then asked a few more questions, even mentioning the ephemera sect. The reason the ephemera sect managed to come through the Nine Nether Road was due to the connection between its hierarch, Butcher Immortal Jing, and an elder in the Six Stars Cave. The interwoven interests between the two were immeasurable. It seemed like they were allowing the ephemera sect to wreak havoc, but in reality, that elder wanted to devour the essence of the origin tree of ephemera. Once the three dynasties' cultivators sacrificed to the origin tree, the elder would strike, not only reaping benefits but also gaining a good reputation. The continent where the ephemera sect resided was also a subsidiary of the seven-star spirit realm, extremely distant from here, so far that the cultivators of the ephemera sect had to rely on the Nine Nether Road. Without Mahayana realm cultivation, they would surely die en route through the ocean. The three continued their conversation for an hour. Before leaving, Ji Hantian urged Guwen not to spread this matter. With the current strength of the Supreme Sect, it was completely inadequate to contend against the seven-star spirit realm, so they had to endure. Guwen rose to see them off. Watching Ji Hantian's departing figure, he very much wanted to ask about the Ji family's true stance towards the seven-star spirit realm. Currently, there were very few members of the Ji family in the Supreme Sect, practically just Ji Hantian's lineage. Speaking of which, when the evil demon broke free, Ji Xiaoyu gave Gu a jade pendant to temporarily keep. It recorded the crimes of the Seven Stars spirit realm, and after so many years, Ji Xiaoyu had yet to come to reclaim it. Using his divine sense, he noticed Ji Xiaoyu heading towards the Tianwei dynasty, moving towards the Eastern Ocean. What was this? Running away from marriage. Ji Hantian and Qiao Dai's visit did not affect Gu An's life. In the following days, he visited the outer gate city more and more frequently. During the winter season, with heavy snow falling, in front of the law enforcement hall's gate in the outer gate city, Gu En and Yilan stood before a statue. After taking the elixirs from Gu En, Yilan said helplessly, "This is too much. Senior brother, don't you cultivate? Are you spending all day making elixirs for me?" Gu En patted the snow off her shoulder and laughed softly. "Don't worry. What I gave you is only a small part. The majority I consumed myself. How could you be more important in my heart than myself?" Yilan glared at him but felt deeply moved inside. She wasn't foolish. Gu En had definitely given her all the elixirs just to help her achieve the primordial reincarnation skill. She was puzzled. She felt her body was still good, able to live for another 200 years. Why was her senior brother so insistent on her achieving it in the next 20 years? Did her senior brother think she could only live for 120 or 30 years? She didn't ask much as she chose to trust her senior brother. The two started talking about Jinqin. For a long time, Gu En bid farewell to Yilan and turned to leave. Watching him walk into the heavy snow, Yilan felt an inexplicable sense of loss. This feeling was strange. She felt she and her senior brother were growing further apart. After leaving the law enforcement hall, Gu En began wandering the streets. Although the winter snow was heavy, some streets remained bustling. Arriving in the busy market area, a young disciple approached him and whispered, "The long-lost Supreme Secret Records, wanna buy? The kind with illustrations." Gu En gave him a look of disdain, bypassed him, and continued on his way. The young disciple persisted. After a dozen steps of entanglement, he finally gave up. "So hypocritical. I spit on you." The young disciple cursed at Gu An's back. As he walked, Gu En unknowingly arrived near the book collection hall and suddenly noticed someone reading a book under an old tree beside the hall's courtyard wall. Reading Journey to the West, no less. Gu En walked past and curiously asked, "Brother, why don't you read inside? There are seats in there." Foundation establishment realm, just average. Even his appearance was average. But Gu En felt something off about his aura, so he used lifespan detection. Yu Yingying Foundation Establishment Realm, 8th floor 124/400/5000 Maximum lifespan of 5,000 years? Why is the cultivation level so low? And the name is a woman's? Doesn't seem like she's disguised as a man. Yu Yingying looked up at Gu En and replied, "It's too noisy inside. It's more peaceful here, and I can feel the nature." Then she suddenly scrutinized Gu En, hesitated, and asked, "Are you Gu En?" Chapter 213 Divine Monarch arrives. Great opportunity hearing Yu Yingying's inquiry. Gu En hesitated for a moment and asked, "I am. Do you know me, Taoist friend?" Yu Yingying's eyes lit up and she said, "My name is Yu Yingying. Senior brother Xian recommended that I come to find you. I was originally going directly to your Medicine Valley but couldn't resist coming to see Journey to the West first." "Senior brother Xian Tianyi?" "That's right. We are from the same sect in the Star Sea congregations. You might not know about the Star Sea congregations. They are a great sect overseas." She started introducing the Star Sea congregations, and Gu En listened attentively, pondering why Xian Tianyi had sent her. Gu En became increasingly certain that Yu Yingying was indeed a woman, merely using some miracle technique to make her aura and appearance resemble that of a man. Such means were truly impressive. Without using divine sense to probe her, she could deceive someone at the 9th level of the heaven and earth flying immortal realm like Gu En. How could it not be impressive? However, since she came from the Star Sea congregations, it made sense. The Star Sea congregations had a long history and had certainly produced heaven and earth flying immortals, possessing miracle techniques and divine skills that could deceive the senses of such beings. It wasn't unusual. Yu Yingying greatly admired Gu An's investiture of the gods and journey to the west, so her words were filled with praise. For a long time, Guan asked, "Taoist friend, you didn't come just to find me, did you? Coming all the way from overseas just for 2 books?" He didn't believe it. Yu Yingying surely had other motives. Yu Yingying nodded and said, "To be honest, senior brother recommended me to sit at the Supreme Sect, but fearing I would be bored, he suggested I come to see you. I am indeed very interested in your books." To sit, Guan became even more curious. Yu Yingying said, "Senior brother fears that the 7 Stars spirit realm might attack the Supreme Sect. With me around, they would at least not dare to act rashly." So impressive? This Foundation Establishment Realm 6th layer cultivator seemed to have a significant background. What background could intimidate the 6 Stars cave? Guan pondered while inquiring further, but Yu Yingying didn't want to say more. Later, Guan invited her to the 3rd Medicine Valley, but she refused politely, saying she had already rented a residence in the outer sect and would visit him if she felt bored. Guan was just being polite. Since she refused, he naturally wouldn't insist. Yu Yingying suddenly waved her sleeve, transforming into a slender woman in blue clothes, with fair skin and a beautiful face. Her eyes carried a playful and mischievous spirit. Her long hair reached her calves, the ends tied with a red scarf. Guan wasn't too stunned. Yu Yingying was indeed beautiful, but the most beautiful ones he had seen were Tianyao and Ji Xiaoyu. The 2 women were equally matched in appearance with different temperaments, making it hard to judge. "Remember, this is my true appearance." Yu Yingying winked at Guan, then waved her sleeve again, turning back into the ordinary male image from before. Guan feigned a shocked expression, greatly satisfying Yu Yingying's vanity. After leaving her residence address, she turned and left. After she had gone far, Guan finally smiled. Hopefully, this woman could truly become the trump card of the Supreme Sect. 5 years swiftly passed by. During these 5 years, the Supreme Sect encountered no major troubles and developed steadily. Guan's life continued as usual, moving between different medicine valleys and visiting the immortal-seeking island about once a year. He also successfully formed a core and officially became a core formation realm disciple, causing quite a stir in the 3rd Medicine Valley. In the evening, Guan rode on the Blood Prison Great Saint back to Mystic Valley. He spoke, "From today onwards, your cultivation level will be at the 2nd layer." As he finished speaking, he released a bit of the returning primordial spirit path from within the Blood Prison Great Saint, restoring its cultivation level to the 2nd layer, akin to the Foundation Establishment realm. The Blood Prison Great Saint felt the spiritual power within its body surge, filled with excitement. It wanted to let out a loud roar but restrained itself. "Thank you, Master," the Blood Prison Great Saint said respectfully, its voice somewhat hoarse. It had been holding back for too long. Guan, sitting on its back, continued to offer instructions, which the beast listened to intently, fearing to offend Guan in the future. Once Guan finished, he placed his hand on the ox head of the Blood Prison Great Saint, imparting the primordial reincarnation skill to it. The Blood Prison Great Saint's eyes instantly turned vacant, its body halting. Guan wasn't in a hurry, beginning to admire the surrounding scenery. This was a sparse woodland located on a ridge, with views of other majestic mountains in the distance when turning one's head. Guan suddenly noticed a powerful aura approaching the Supreme Sect. Wasn't this the 9-fingered Divine Lord he had encountered before on the immortal-seeking island? Guan was curious. The Divine Lord's limit of 80,000 years of lifespan had left a deep impression on him. Why would such a powerful figure come to this backward continent? Compared to the surrounding sea areas and continents, the continent where the Supreme Sect was located was indeed backward, naturally due to the 7-star spirit realm. Every 10,000 years, they would instigate a major demonic calamity. How could the human race on this continent ever prosper? After the demonic calamity ended, the 7-star spirit realm was quite restrained, causing no further troubles but sending more disciples down the mountain to establish more connections with the secular world. Because of this, the Seven Stars spirit realm remained highly regarded in the immortal cultivation world, with many sects hoping to establish friendly relations with them. Guwen silently pondered. After a long time, the blood prison great saint finally awakened, exclaiming excitedly, "What a domineering cultivation technique! Master, if I cultivate this technique for 1,000 years, can I ascend into the realm of immortal path in one leap?" It was willing to be Guwen a steed for 1,000 years, with its cultivation sealed. It was perfectly suited to cultivate the primordial reincarnation skill during this time. That depends on whether you put in the effort, Guwen replied with a smile. The blood prison great saint wanted to say more, but Guwen patted its head, transmitting a message that someone was approaching, causing it to shut up immediately. "Let's continue on our way," Guwen said. The blood prison great saint immediately resumed walking. The mountain path wasn't too steep, with the surrounding flowers and birds making the journey refreshing. Just as they exited the forest, a figure approached from ahead. It was the Nine-Fingered Divine Lord, still wearing a straw hat and looking travel-worn. He came before the blood prison great saint and asked, "May I ask if you are a disciple of the Supreme Sect, brother?" The blood prison great saint stopped, scrutinizing the man but unable to discern his depth. "I am Guwen of the Supreme Sect. May I ask what brings you to our sect, Taoist friend?" Guwen raised his hand in greeting, smiling as he asked. The Nine-Fingered Divine Lord had sought out Guwen because he observed that among the local cultivators, Guwen had the highest cultivation level, thus most likely belonged to the Supreme Sect. The Nine-Fingered Divine Lord looked up at Guwen, feeling as if he had seen him somewhere before. However, with Guwen only at the core formation realm, having encountered many with similar cultivation levels in his travels, he paid it no mind. "I am Taoist Nine-Finger, a loose cultivator wandering the world. I've heard of the Supreme Sect's reputation and wish to join. May I ask if you could introduce me?" Guwen naturally didn't refuse, agreeing readily, and began leading the way. The blood prison great saint walked at a leisurely pace, and the Nine-Fingered Divine Lord was in no hurry, using the time to learn more about the Supreme Sect from Guwen. He asked many questions, and Guwen answered them all, his forthrightness furthering the Divine Lord's favorable impression of him. After a considerable time, the two grew closer. "Taoist friend, could you tell me your cultivation level, so that I can decide whether to take you to the outer sect or the inner sect?" Guwen asked. The Nine-Fingered Divine Lord had observed on his journey that to become a high-ranking member of the Supreme Sect, one needed at least an unification realm cultivation. "To be honest, I am at the 4th layer of the unification realm," Taoist Nine-Finger said hesitantly. "What? Unification realm?" Guwen exclaimed, making the blood prison great saint want to roll its eyes. In the face of Guwen's excitement, Taoist Nine-Finger remained calm, not relishing the sense of superiority since his real cultivation level was at the 2nd layer of the wandering immortal realm. Energy cultivation, foundation establishment, core formation, nascent soul, divinity transformation, void crossing, unification, mystic heart, Mahayana, nirvana, loose immortal, wandering immortal. Pretending to be at a lower realm, he was 4 major realms higher than Guwen. In reality, he was 9 major realms higher than Guwen. Along the way, Guwen's curiosity grew, but his words didn't come across as obsequious, earning more respect from Taoist Nine-Finger. As evening approached, they arrived at Mystic Valley. Guwen invited Taoist Nine-Finger to stay for the night, to which the latter had no objection. Upon entering Mystic Valley, a group of servant disciples greeted them warmly. Seeing these energy cultivation realm cultivators mingling closely with core formation realm Guwen, the Nine-Fingered Divine Lord noticed that Guwen wasn't just respectful on the surface. He was also kind and non-arrogant towards those below him. Guwen tasked Lu Jujia with arranging accommodation for Taoist Nine-Finger before retiring to his room to rest. A while later, the Nine-Fingered Divine Lord sat cross-legged on his bed, scanning the Supreme Sect with his divine sense. The strongest cultivator in the Supreme Sect was only at the Mahayana realm, posing no threat to him and offering little of interest. He even discovered the existence of the 8 scenic caves but paid it no mind. Everyone had secrets. Guan having a hidden cave was nothing notable, and the herbs within the 8 scenic caves did not attract him. Deep into the night, on the mountain top, Chu Jingfeng sat meditating, absorbing energy. "What cultivation technique are you practicing?" The 9-Finger Divine Lord's voice suddenly came, startling Chu Jingfeng, who turned to look. An hour ago, he had seen the 9-Finger Divine Lord, who was addressed as senior by Guan. He quickly stood up, greeting him. "A technique for absorbing energy, not worth mentioning." The 9-Finger Divine Lord scrutinized him and said, "Your natural talents are decent. It's a pity you haven't laid a solid foundation. The technique you're practicing can improve your aptitude, but its effects are limited." Hearing this, Chu Jingfeng felt both relieved and somewhat uncomfortable. Daring to belittle the Taoist expansion skill? The 9-Finger Divine Lord continued, "I can help you rebuild your foundation and restore your cultivation. Will you become my named disciple?" Chu Jingfeng hesitated and asked, "May I know the senior's identity?" The 9-Finger Divine Lord's eyes flashed with appreciation. "I am a loose cultivator from overseas. I met your Valley Master. Tomorrow I will join the Supreme Sect. I am an Unification Realm cultivator. According to your Valley Master, becoming an elder shouldn't be difficult." Unification Realm cultivator. Chu Jingfeng was stunned. To him, Unification Realm cultivators were exalted, unapproachable beings. He gritted his teeth and said, "I need to discuss this with the Valley Master. He took me in when I was in distress. I can't just leave." "Ha ha ha. Talk to him tomorrow then." The 9-Finger Divine Lord laughed, then turned and left. This foolish boy didn't realize he had encountered a great fortune. Chapter 214 Immortal Path Supreme Treasure. The next morning, 9-Finger Divine Lord brought Chu Jingfeng to find Guan and expressed his intention to take him as a disciple. Guan was pleasantly surprised and hastily had Chu Jingfeng express his gratitude to 9-Finger Divine Lord. This gesture deeply moved Chu Jingfeng. Upon hearing that 9-Finger Divine Lord could help him restore his cultivation level, he felt tempted. However, given all that Guan had done for him over the years, he felt torn and unsure of how to decide. 9-Finger Divine Lord also held Guan in higher regard. He could see that Guan was genuinely happy for Chu Jingfeng. This was indeed true. Although Guan was powerful in terms of knowledge and experience, he certainly couldn't match the 17,000-year-old 9-Finger Divine Lord. If the Divine Lord sincerely cared for Chu Jingfeng, it would be a turning point in Chu Jingfeng's life. Subsequently, Guan directly instructed Chu Jingfeng to acknowledge 9-Finger Divine Lord as his master, making the atmosphere very harmonious. An hour later, they used the teleportation array to reach the 3rd Medicine Valley and then flew to the Intersect City. 9-Finger Divine Lord had long known of the 3rd Medicine Valley but had not expected it to belong to Guan as well. It wasn't until noon that Guan returned alone to the 3rd Medicine Valley, while 9-Finger Divine Lord and Chu Jingfeng prepared to stay in the Intersect City. Though the true intentions of 9-Finger Divine Lord remained unclear, the addition of a wandering immortal was a good thing for the Supreme Sect. If 9-Finger Divine Lord caused trouble, Guan could always intervene. Is the fortune of the Supreme Sect rising? Guan sat in his chair, silently pondering. First, Shen Tianyi summoned Yu Yingying of the Star Sea congregations. Then Qiao Dai of the 7-Star Spirit Realm came to surrender, and now a mysterious wandering immortal had arrived. This fortune made Guan marvel. He didn't overthink it and began to practice alchemy. In the dead of night, Guan arrived at Heavenly Phoenix Mountain. He first visited his own grotto heaven and then made his way along the tunnel to Nianshu Cave. The 2 cat demons had grown up. Though they had not yet shapeshifted, they now appeared as large as leopards, lying prone on the ground, seemingly napping but actually absorbing nature's spiritual energy. Tian Yaoer heard Guan's footsteps and immediately stepped out of the house, appearing before Guan as if teleporting. She was about to throw herself into his arms when he pressed her forehead with his finger, stopping her from moving forward. You are a bit slow, not fast enough. Gu En was referring to Tian Yao's limitless freedom step. Tian Yao pouted and asked, Master, did you go to your grotto heaven first? Yes, Gu En responded, then walked past her. The medicinal herbs in the grotto heaven were all at least 7th rank, taking much longer to mature compared to low-rank medical herbs, so he couldn't harvest them yet. However, once he could harvest them, he would surely gain a large amount of lifespan at once. Even without relying on the grotto heaven, Gu En could now accrue nearly 300,000 years of lifespan each year. Tian Yao caught up and curiously asked, Master, when will we move in there? The grotto heaven was much more spacious, while Nianchu Cave felt too stifling. You can go in any time you want, just don't forget about Nianchu Cave, Gu En replied. A look of disappointment flashed in Tian Yao's eyes. She had hoped to live with Gu En, thinking he was planning to move in because of the many high-rank medical herbs planted there. She didn't press the matter but instead started talking about recent events. The previous night, a great demon had fought in Heavenly Phoenix Mountain, causing a huge commotion that made her very nervous, fearing a demon might break into Nianchu Cave. Their conversation continued leisurely. Soon, Tianqing and Tianbai were awakened by their chatter. Seeing Gu En, the two cat demons grew delighted and immediately rushed over. Master! Master, you finally came! The two cat demons' voices sounded sweet, like two young girls coyly addressing Gu En almost got goosebumps. He felt that Tian Yao had spoiled these two cat demons. They sat down at the stone table, and Tian Yao brought out some fine wine, saying, Master, do you have more of Journey to the West? I just read the part where Sun Wukong fights the White-Bone Demon. Monk Tang is really frustrating. Gu En took out the latest scroll from his storage bag and placed it on the table. He joked, Why? Didn't you side with the demons? Sun Wukong is also a demon. I support him. Monk Tang may save demons, but he's so oblivious. Master, do humans have a legend about seeking scriptures? Tian Yao asked indignantly. No, it's just a story I made up. Really? Feels so real. When you become a great demon, you can also rule Heavenly Phoenix Mountain. Hee, that's what I thought too. When the time comes, I'll call myself the beautiful Phoenix King and form the 7 great saints. Talking about such things excited Tian Yao. She chattered on enthusiastically. Gu En found it amusing. Indeed, boasting needed no teaching. It came naturally with imagination. As they chatted, Gu En sensed a vast aura from a distance. His divine sense instinctively followed, but the aura quickly vanished. Gu En speculated it might have come from a minor heaven and earth realm. Thinking of such vastness, he first considered the 7 stars spirit realm. Only the minor heaven and earth realm of the 7 stars spirit realm could be so well hidden. Of course, Gu An's divine sense could locate the minor heaven and earth realm of the 7 stars spirit realm, but the restrictions there were highly advanced. Sneaking in unnoticed was beyond his capability. If he forced his way in, it would certainly alert the cultivators of the 7 stars spirit realm. Are they up to something again? Gu En pondered as he dealt with Tian Yao. With the passage of summer into autumn, the weather remained hot. At noon, Gu En rode the blood prison great saint to the outer gate city. There, he overheard cultivators talking about a recent event. An immortal path supreme treasure. Did you hear? There are signs of an immortal path supreme treasure in the demon land. What's an immortal path supreme treasure? I don't know either. I heard it's an immortal's magic artifact. Possessing it grants the power of an immortal. I heard about it too, but no one knows the exact location yet. Is this immortal path supreme treasure more powerful than the heaven-cutting axe? Gu En listened silently, but the blood prison great saint, unable to contain his curiosity, asked, Master, is there really such an immortal path supreme treasure? Gu En did not answer but looked ahead. Yu Yingying approached, hands behind her back, her face beaming with a smile. It's true. Want to know more? She asked. The blood prison great saint nodded, eagerly looking at her. However, Yu Yingying rolled her eyes at him and then looked at Gu and smiled and said, "Of course, I'm also interested. Come to my residence. I have something to discuss with you," Yu Ying said, turning to leave. Gu patted the great saint, signaling him to follow. After 30 minutes, they were sitting in a courtyard. Yu Ying and Gu sat across from each other at a stone table. She began to introduce the Immortal Path Supreme Treasures. The world has magic artifacts, Dharma treasures, and immortal treasures. Immortal treasures are magic artifacts crafted at the Immortal Path realm, only wielded by an immortal's mana. But an Immortal Path Supreme Treasure is crafted by the mightiest of the Immortal Path, each imbued with an immortal spirit. These supreme treasures not only contain immense power but also remain unaffected by the passage of time. The beings who crafted them either left the mortal world or have passed away, but the treasures endure. The Star Sea congregations possess one such supreme treasure, the Star Sea Primordial Unity Banner, which is their church treasure. The Holy Land, the Seven-Star Spirit Realm, also has an Immortal Path Supreme Treasure, the Seven Stars Mirror, which is likewise their church treasure. Recently, it is said that the Seven Stars Spirit Realm discovered another fake immortal treasure, and the entire ocean is competing for it. I hadn't expected the news to spread so widely that even the low-level cultivators of the Supreme Sect would hear of it. Gu, curious, asked, "What is a fake immortal treasure?" Yu Ying explained, "It is a damaged Immortal Path Supreme Treasure where the immortal spirit is dormant. Though still possessing great power, it pales in comparison to a complete supreme treasure." Gu suddenly suspected that Nine-Finger Divine Lord had come to the Supreme Sect for this fake immortal treasure. Normally not engaged in combat, Gu wasn't particularly interested in Immortal Path Supreme Treasures. He placed more trust in his own mana. Yu Ying continued to describe other Immortal Path Supreme Treasures, each a legendary artifact, claiming that those who obtained them could achieve the Immortal Path, boasting extravagantly. The Blood Prison Great Saint lay nearby, listening intently with a look of longing in his eyes. As Gu listened, he spread his divine sense over the continent, noticing that from all directions, cultivators and demons were arriving from overseas, including several beings at the Immortal Path realm. He identified 3 wandering immortals and over a dozen Nirvana realm beings making their way here. Within the continent, he detected the presence of more than 20 wandering immortals, spread out in different areas, all seeking Immortal Path Supreme Treasures. Some were even near the minor heaven and earth realm of the Seven-Star Spirit Realm, plotting how to infiltrate. Notably, Gu saw that Hao, Liya, and Zhang Buku were also roaming the demon clan's territory, and Hao was fighting a great demon of the Divinity Transformation realm alone. After talking about Immortal Path Supreme Treasures, let's discuss Journey to the West, shall we? Yu Ying suddenly said, her eyes glowing as she looked at Gu. She usually loved reading all kinds of miscellaneous books, especially stories, which was why she got along well with Shen Tianyi. Ever since Shen Tianyi gave her investiture of the gods, she had been fascinated by Pan and, "What do you want to discuss?" Gu asked. Yu Ying immediately asked a series of questions, such as whether investiture of the gods and Journey to the West were connected, how many years apart they were, and on which continent the stories took place. She was even curious about how Gu came up with these 2 remarkable books. Gu answered her questions one by one. As for the source of his inspiration, he mentioned meeting 2 Taoists before, one named Su Zhonglin, who told him the story of investiture of the gods, and another named Wu Qinzhen, who told him the story of Journey to the West. Yu Ying did not doubt him and became even more curious about these 2 Taoists. She believed that with Gu's cultivation level, he did not seem to possess such extensive knowledge but simply had literary talent. The Blood Prison Great Saint listened curiously. He knew Gu wrote books but did not know the details. Only when Yu Ying mentioned the Bull Demon King did he become interested. Gu had given him the name of the Bull Demon King. Had his master written a book for him? Who was Sun Wukong? Could it be the monkey in Tianya Valley? Thinking of those 3 monkeys, the Blood Prison Great Saint felt angry. Those 3 always stealthily pulled his fur, and he couldn't catch them. 2 hours passed like this. Yu Yingying brought tea and snacks, indicating she had no intention of letting Guan leave. In the few years since arriving at the Supreme Sect, she hadn't sought out Guan because she was busy reading. She had read through all the books in the book collection hall, a determination that impressed even Guan. At that moment, a high-pitched dragon's roar echoed from the sky. Yu Yingying's face changed, and she murmured, "Dragon-slaying spear Qi Zhouxiao." Chapter 215. 700,000 years lifespan limit. Dragon-slaying spear Qi Zhouxiao? Dragon-slaying? How arrogant! The blood prison great saint heard Yu Yingying's words and couldn't help but show a curious expression. He looked up to the south and saw a golden glow appearing in the sky, becoming more and more spectacular, as if the sky was changing color. Guan also turned his head to look. In fact, he had already seen the figure of the approaching person. Nirvana realm 9 layers. The golden light gradually enveloped the sky above the Supreme Sect. More and more people flew up, looking into the distance. Dragon roars echoed continuously, growing louder, indicating that the person was getting closer. Soon, a 1,000-foot-long 5-clawed golden dragon flew from the horizon. Its majestic and imposing figure shook the outer gate city. Guan saw that in the dragon's head was a long spear, entirely golden, with a golden dragon coiled around the shaft, its mouth spitting out the spear blade, exuding dominance. That was a very extraordinary Dharma treasure. Perhaps it was the immortal treasure that Yu Yingying mentioned. This golden dragon was condensed from the immortal treasure and was not a true dragon. Standing on the dragon's head was a man wearing a gold-patterned white robe, a red belt around his waist. His shoulders were broad, his posture upright. His aura couldn't be concealed. His face was handsome, his long hair coiled under a crown, with 2 strands of black hair hanging in front of his ears, fluttering in the wind. Qi Zhouxiao stood high above, looking down at the Supreme Sect, a smirk on his lips, and his gaze arrogant. Guan's gaze locked onto him, throwing a lifespan detection at him. Qi Zhouxiao, Nirvana Realm 9 Layers 998/25,000/70000 700,000 years of ultimate lifespan. Very exaggerated. This guy wasn't even 1,000 years old yet, and was already in the Nirvana Realm 9 Layers? No wonder he was so proud. Who is this person? The blood prison great saint couldn't help but ask. He could feel that the other party was definitely above the Mahayana realm. Yu Yingying looked up at the sky and said softly, "He is a disciple of the Star Sea congregations, with top-notch talent. At the age of 500, he stepped into the realm of immortal path. The golden dragon he rides is transformed from the dragon-slaying spear, which is an immortal treasure refined by an ancient immortal. Although it is not as great as the supreme treasure of the immortal path, with this spear, even a loose immortal would find it difficult to kill him." Qi Zhouxiao, standing high above, looked down and saw Yu Yingying through the sky. He slightly raised an eyebrow and suddenly leaped down. The city protection array of the outer gate city was instantly disturbed, but it was broken as soon as it appeared, with no resistance whatsoever. He fell like swift thunder, landing in the courtyard of Yu Yingying's residence, startling the blood prison great saint to his feet, as did Guan. Qi Zhouxiao ignored him and Guan, his eyes fixed on Yu Yingying, and he laughed. "Little girl, what are you doing here? Little girl? How did your master teach you to speak? Haha. So this is the Supreme Sect that Shen Tianyi comes from? Really weak. I heard he wants to deal with the 7-star spirit realm. Your master is running around making connections, but the higher-ups are unmoved." Qi Zhouxiao laughed softly. Seeing Yu Yingying frown, he continued, "How about I go and probe the depths of the 7-star spirit realm for you?" Yu Yingying looked at him and snorted. "With your cultivation level, don't die at the 7-star spirit realm. Ha ha ha. Then watch me seize the supreme treasure of the immortal path." With that, Qi Zhouxiao leaped into the air, the golden dragon in the sky transforming into a streak of golden light, flying across the sky and disappearing without a trace. From beginning to end, Qi Zhouxiao didn't even glance at Guan. Yu Yingying snorted coldly. That guy is truly arrogant. Sooner or later he will suffer a big loss. Guan sat down again and curiously asked, "What is your relationship?" "Just fellow disciples, we're not on the same path." Yu Yingying shook her head, obviously not wanting to say much about herself. A Foundation Establishment Realm 8th floor saying she's not on the same path as a Nirvana Realm 9 layers? Though correct, it felt a bit awkward. Guan felt more and more that Yu Yingying was not simple. No wonder Shen Tianyi invited her to the Supreme Sect. He looked at the cause and effect around Yu Yingying, probing her past 20 years. However, he only saw various scenes of Yu Yingying throwing tantrums and being domineering, with Shen Tianyi pleasing her. Letting him stir things up is good. Your Supreme Sect is dissatisfied with the 7 Stars Spirit Realm anyway. Yu Yingying continued. Guan remained silent, not responding. Yu Yingying could see that he didn't want to cause trouble. Shen Tianyi had mentioned this before. Let's continue talking about Journey to the West. Yu Yingying laughed. At this moment, the entire Supreme Sect was in an uproar, all disciples discussing Qi Zhouxiao. In a mansion in the main city of the sect, Qiao Dai stood on the eaves, frowning. Dragon-slaying spear. Why is he here? Could it be that the 7-star spirit realm really has the supreme treasure of the immortal path? But why bring the supreme treasure to this continent? Qiao Dai was filled with confusion. He felt it was not a coincidence. The 7-star spirit realm must have a plan. Qi Jiaxiu's appearance marked the beginning of the competition for the supreme treasure of the immortal path. In the days that followed, powerful presences occasionally swept past the Supreme Sect, and divine senses occasionally scanned the Supreme Sect. This made the atmosphere within the Supreme Sect tense, fearing they would suffer in the crossfire. 5 days later, LV Badian came to find Guan. The two hid in a room to talk. After setting up a restriction, LV Badian couldn't help but sigh. Lately, many great cultivators from overseas are arriving. The peace of this continent is about to be broken. He felt very aggrieved. Those overseas great cultivators freely probed the Supreme Sect without greeting, completely ignoring them. The most crucial part was that the Supreme Sect had to endure it. Not only the Supreme Sect, but the 3 dynasties and all sects felt this way. After surviving the demon calamity, all sects were eager to grow stronger. But in just a few years, so many beings at the Immortal Path realm appeared, making them feel like weeds. Before the demon calamity, I lived for hundreds of years without seeing a Mahayana realm cultivator, let alone those at the Immortal Path realm. Now, how come there are more and more? LV Badian said troubledly. Guan comforted him. It's okay. For now, no one is endangering the Supreme Sect. Their target should be that so-called supreme treasure of the Immortal Path. LV Badian nodded. I just wanted to vent to you. Now the Hall of Elders is on high alert, fearing another calamity may break out. Boom! A deafening roar came from afar, startling LV Badian, cutting off his words. Guan's divine sense swept out, seeing Qi Zhouxiao fighting a Nirvana realm great cultivator far beyond Heavenly Phoenix Mountain. That person should be from the 7 Stars Spirit Realm. His aura did not come from overseas but seemed to have suddenly appeared. Qi Zhouxiao was indeed strong, completely suppressing the opponent. Guan sensed a loose immortal aura approaching the battlefield, also emerging from the minor heaven and earth of the 7 Stars Spirit Realm. I need to go back. LV Badian stood up and then disappeared from the room. Guan also stood up, walked downstairs and saw disciples gathering. The previous noise had scared them, and they couldn't help but be afraid. Lu Lingjun also walked out from inside. She and the Blood Prison Great Saint looked in the same direction. After a while, Lu Lingjun withdrew her gaze and looked at the Blood Prison Great Saint. Why did it seem like the Blood Prison Great Saint was also looking in her direction? The Blood Prison Great Saint felt her gaze and couldn't help but glare at her. Stupid bull. Lu Lingjun shook her head and smiled, then walked towards Guan. The Blood Prison Great Saint couldn't help but curse. You're the stupid one. Lu Lingjun glanced at him, a terrifying murderous intent locking onto him, making his bull body stiffen. Guan also gave the blood prison great saint a look, forcing him to lower his head. The blood prison great saint felt extremely aggrieved. A dignified Mahayana realm cultivator, humiliated by a mystic heart realm cultivator, unable to retort, he now really hated Lu Lingjun. Thousands of years later, I definitely won't join your ascension sect, and he'll even steal your people. Lu Lingjun smiled with satisfaction. Then came to Guan. Why do you argue with him? Guan pretended to complain. Upset? I apologize to you. How would I know he has such a bad temper? Usually, she was in seclusion, unaware of what the blood prison great saint had gone through. Never mind, treat him better in the future. After all, he's my mount. Guan shook his head, making the blood prison great saint feel very touched. Lu Lingjun laughed. This bull is too weak. If you want a mount, I can get you a stronger one. The blood prison great saint's anger flared up again. Guan feared he would die of anger, so he pulled Lu Lingjun to an isolated place. Lu Lingjun sought him out of curiosity about recent events. Guan didn't hide anything and told her about the rumors of the supreme treasure of the immortal path. Lu Lingjun became interested and flew north directly. Really reckless. Are all ascenders like this? Guan felt helpless. His divine sense locked onto Qi Zhouxiao. This guy was already facing a loose immortal. The loose immortal seemed to be the master of the Nirvana realm cultivator, continually warning Qi Zhouxiao. But Qi Zhouxiao was extremely arrogant, soon starting a fight after a few words. One had to admit that the dragon-slaying spear in Qi Zhouxiao's hand was indeed powerful, capable of both offense and defense, preventing the loose immortal from defeating him in a short time. Of course, Guan could see that the loose immortal was very cautious of Qi Zhouxiao, not dealing a deadly blow. Before long, Qi Zhouxiao was still defeated and had to retreat. The immortal treasure could only protect him from death but couldn't help him kill a loose immortal realm great cultivator. After the battle ended, Guan retracted his divine sense and turned back to the house. In the middle of the night, and Hao walked through the woods holding a map. He had obtained it by chance, and it was said to record the cave of an ancient great cultivator. As he walked, he suddenly sensed something, quickly putting away the map, warily looking around, and a long sword appeared in his hand. Footsteps came from the darkness. He looked closely and saw a man approaching. It was Qi Zhouxiao, and Hao did not recognize Qi Zhouxiao but could sense that the other was very strong. Qi Zhouxiao's face was very bad. He looked at Hao and asked, "Hey, what's your name? Which sect or school are you from?" And Hao frowned. "My name is Hao, from the Supreme Sect." Qi Zhouxiao said, "The Supreme Sect? There's a connection. One of my junior sisters is in the Supreme Sect. In light of this connection, give me the 8th rank heavenly material and earthly treasure from your storage bag for my healing, and I won't treat you unfairly." Hearing this, Hao's face changed drastically. How did the other K? Chapter 216. Soaring Dragon 9 Transformations. Divine Exotic City. Qi Zhouxiao noticed Hao's tension, so he raised his hand, took out a scroll, and threw it to Hao. Hao instinctively caught it, then heard Qi Zhouxiao say, "Take a look. This is a divine skill I accidentally obtained." After saying that, Qi Zhouxiao sat down cross-legged and began to cultivate energy to heal his wounds. Hao hesitated for a moment before he delved his divine sense into the scroll. After a while, Hao's face changed dramatically, and the hand holding the scroll trembled. He withdrew his divine sense, then took out an 8th rank heaven and earth treasure from his storage bag, a bright red spirit flower, and presented it to Qi Zhouxiao. Qi Zhouxiao beckoned with his hand, and the 8th rank spirit flower flew into his hand. He stood up, took out a medicine cauldron that was about a zhang tall, tossed the spirit flower into it, and then added numerous medicinal herbs. After lighting the fire, he took out a small bottle and poured water into the cauldron. The small bottle seemed to contain an otherworldly space and never ran dry. When the cauldron was filled with water, Qi Zhouxiao sealed the bottle and put it back into his storage Dharma artifact. He looked at Hao and said, You can leave now. With that, he leaped into the air and landed inside the medicine cauldron. And Hao hesitated for a moment but did not leave. Instead, he sat down under a nearby tree and began to comprehend the divine skill given by Qi Jiuxiao. Soaring Dragon 9 transformations, just by looking at the description of the divine skill within the scroll, and Hao couldn't help but feel his blood boil. Thus, day after day passed. 7 days later, Qi Jiuxiao leaped out from the medicine cauldron. When he landed on the ground, his wet robes quickly dried, and wisps of white smoke coiled around his body. He shrank the medicine cauldron to a small size, stored it in his hand, and then emptied it, using his mana to clean out the residue. At the same time, he looked into the distance. Through the gaps in the leaves, he saw an azure dragon tumbling in the sky beyond the forest. This kid's comprehension is extraordinary. Qi Jiuxiao was secretly astonished. In just a few days, and Hao had managed to master the divine skill. Such talent was rare even in the Star Sea congregations. After putting away the medicine cauldron, he disappeared without a trace in the forest. The next second, he appeared in the sky, blocking the azure dragon. The azure dragon, which Hao had transformed into, was 3 zhang long, not very large, but full of imposing presence. Upon seeing Qi Jiuxiao, the azure dragon shook and transformed back into Hao, who excitedly said, "This divine skill is amazing. After transforming, I feel like a true dragon, and my speed has increased significantly." Qi Jiuxiao said proudly, "Of course, I am Qi Jiuxiao of the dragon-slaying spear. How could I deceive you, kid? The value of this divine skill far exceeds the 8th rank heaven and earth treasure. You should thank me." Upon hearing this, Hao immediately bowed and thanked Qi Jiuxiao. Qi Jiuxiao's face was full of smiles, though he felt a bit jealous inside. He had originally thought that even if he passed the Soaring Dragon 9 transformations to Hao wouldn't be able to learn it, making himself appear generous without any loss. Who would have thought? Qi Jiuxiao sized up Hao and said, "Kid, why don't you join the Star Sea congregations? The Supreme Sect is too small for you. With your talent, if you join the Star Sea congregations, you'll reach the Mahayana realm within 500 years. Hao frowned slightly upon hearing this. Reaching the Mahayana realm at 500 years old was impressive, Hao had always thought of his own talent as unparalleled. So he didn't see reaching the Mahayana realm in 500 years as a difficult feat. Even Shen Tianyi was only a few hundred years old. Qi Jiuxiao continued to boast about the greatness of the Star Sea congregations. When he mentioned Shen Tianyi, Hao finally grew interested. He had a very good relationship with Shen Tianyi. However, in Qi Jiuxiao's words, Shen Tianyi was just a fellow disciple with decent talent. The reason Shen Tianyi was mentioned was that he also came from the Supreme Sect. "Forget it, I'm not going to the Star Sea congregations. I want to stay in the Supreme Sect," Hao said, shaking his head. Qi Jiuxiao did not try to persuade him further. After all, he wasn't the sect hierarch of the Star Sea congregations, so making a few recruiting gestures was enough. "Why did you appear in this area?" Qi Jiuxiao asked. Hao did not conceal anything and said, "I was originally training and heard the legend of the Immortal Path Supreme Treasure. I wanted to see it for myself." Qi Jiuxiao laughed and said, "How about joining forces? Well, rely on our abilities when the time comes." Hao hesitantly asked, "Can my cultivation level really help you? I'm not very familiar with this continent. You can tell me about the events happening here, and I'll guide you in cultivating the Soaring Dragon 9 transformations. How about that?" "All right. Thank you, Senior." Hao responded excitedly. The reason he did not leave was that he wanted to learn more skills from Qi Jiuxiao. Then, the two of them flew off in one direction. As autumn arrived, the scorching heat between heaven and earth gradually dissipated. The influence of the Immortal Path Supreme Treasure continued to increase, attracting more and more cultivators to head north in search of opportunities. Guan was not affected and continued to live his plain yet interesting life. Occasionally, he would visit the outer gate city to chat with his friends about the various events stirred up by the Immortal Path Supreme Treasure. One day, Yilan came to find Guwen and also spoke about the immortal cultivation world. A faction of the Tianwei dynasty was flattened by overseas great cultivators, causing panic in the immortal cultivation world. Fortunately, our supreme sect is protected by Sword Venerable Fudao. Otherwise, those great cultivators from overseas wouldn't dare to act recklessly, Yilan said with concern. The battle took place at night, and Guwen had sensed it, but he didn't intervene. He had no relationship with Tianwei, so naturally, he was too lazy to take action. Such calamities were not uncommon in the immortal cultivation world. The overseas great cultivators who intervened were only at the Mahayana realm, but they were enough to crush a great sect with 1,000,000 disciples. Guwen reminded her, "Then you should go out less and stay in the sect to cultivate." Yilan nodded and said, "I'm now stationed at the law enforcement hall, doing idle tasks all day, and spending most of my time taking elixirs and absorbing energy." She was already 101 years old, and her maximum lifespan was only 130 years. Time was running out. Now, besides growing flowers and plants, Guwen supervised her cultivation. Unlike Xiaochuan, Yilan was quite ambitious, so Guwen was willing to help her. As they chatted, the topic shifted to Jinqin. A few days ago, Jinqin followed the elders and inheriting disciples to the demon clan's territory. It was said that the supreme sect had discovered a secret realm, a rare opportunity. That girl is bound to soar to great heights. She might even become a great cultivator of the supreme sect in the future. Imagine, she used to come to the inner sect to find me, acting like a little girl, reckless in her actions and careless in her words. Yilan began reminiscing about decades ago. Guwen listened attentively, and when she finished, he teased, "What, are you jealous of her? Why don't I cultivate the defying fate divine skill and pass my cultivation level to you before I die?" Yilan gave him a sidelong glance and said, "I wouldn't want that. What's the point of living without you?" As they talked, the teacups on the table began to tremble, and ripples appeared in the tea. Yilan noticed this and frowned. Soon, even the ground began to shake, alarming all the cultivators in the city. Guwen's gaze turned towards the depths of the continent to the desolate plains where a giant city was rising from the ground, occupying a 1,000-mile radius. Dust filled the sky, and the momentum was magnificent. Guwen could sense the vast power contained within the city. It was a Dharma treasure, the strongest he had ever seen. He immediately thought of a name, Immortal Path Supreme Treasure. The restrictions contained in this treasure were not only advanced but also very complex. Guwen even sensed the aura of karmic rules. A city that occupied a 1,000-mile radius was colossal, with walls 100 zhang tall. The city filled with buildings, palaces, and towering spires. Despite its ancient and dilapidated appearance, the city had crossed the long river of time. With the arrival of the city, the great cultivators scattered across the continent all rushed towards it, including Qi Zhouxiao and Hao. Even Li Ye and Zhang Buku joined the excitement. "I'm going out to take a look." Yilan said this and then leaped into the air, stepping on her flying sword as she left the residence. Guwen picked up his teacup and continued drinking tea, watching the excitement. He saw numerous cultivators from the 7 Stars spirit realm enter the city, and once they did, their figures disappeared, and their auras weakened. Guwen, at the 9th level of the heaven and earth flying immortal realm, could barely catch their auras. Even so, it was difficult for cultivators of lower realms. No matter how many cultivators flew into the city, it remained silent. No one was seen, and no signs of life could be detected. The divine exotic city is open. All beings under the heavens can enter the city and find their immortal fate. A booming and ancient voice resounded throughout the heavens and earth, reaching every corner of the continent. Wandering immortal. Guwen raised an eyebrow. The 6 Stars cave only had one wandering immortal. Now, with the appearance of a second, had the death of the divine soul true lord been discovered? After a while, Yilan flew back. The disturbance seems to be coming from afar. This divine exotic city sounds extraordinary. I really want to see it, Yilan said wistfully as she sat opposite Guwen Gu and shook his head and said, Such immortal fate is not something cultivators like us can reach. I know. Don't worry. I won't go looking for death. With my cultivation level, I might die before even seeing the divine exotic city, Yilan said with a smile, shaking her head. Guwen didn't comfort her. It was indeed the truth. About an hour later, Guwen left under Yilan's urging. In the days that followed, various legends about the divine exotic city circulated within the supreme sect. Shenzhen especially visited Guwen, bringing many tales of the divine exotic city. I heard from a senior that the divine exotic city is an ancient immortal city, hidden and elusive. Each appearance can change the world. Our predecessors in the Daotian sect once excavated an ancient site and found an inscription mentioning the divine exotic city. It is a very ancient legend, Shenzhen said excitedly. Guwen smiled and asked, "What? Do you want to join the excitement?" He observed the divine exotic city every day, witnessing over 10,000 beings enter the city, but none had come out. Shenzhen nodded and said, "Yes, I'm planning to take a look. I want enter the city. Just watch the excitement from outside and draw the divine exotic city. Are you coming? There will be the vice sect leader and the supreme elders leading the way." Guwen shook his head and said, "I'm not going. If there's an incident, dying there would be too worthless." "Nonsense. Are you cursing me?" Shenzhen glared at him. No matter how much she persuaded, Guwen wouldn't go, so she had no choice but to give up. After Shenzhen left, Guwen went downstairs to start picking medicinal herbs. At the same time, his divine sense saw Liya and Zhang Buku entering the divine exotic city. Another person was on the way to the divine exotic city. It was Ji Xiaoyu. Chapter 217. Have you read Journey to the West? The noise caused by the appearance of divine exotic city in a short period of time matched the past catastrophe of demons, with various legends about divine exotic city emerging and widely circulating in the immortal cultivation world and among the common people. Divine exotic city houses immortals. Divine exotic city has the elixir of immortality. Divine exotic city has a passage to an exotic world, and so on. These countless peculiar tales made Guwen feel astonished. In the blink of an eye, more than half a year had passed. This year's spring festival was quieter than in previous years because many disciples of the Supreme Sect went out to seek opportunities. Fortunately, the Third Medicine Valley and Mystic Valley were not affected. Divine Exotic City still stood there, continuously attracting cultivators from all over the world to seek treasures. Even the Nine-Fingered Divine Lord, who was temporarily residing in the Supreme Sect, went there, taking Chu Jingfeng with him. Up to now, it was only heard who had gone to Divine Exotic City. No one had been heard to bring back any harvest from inside the city. In late spring, Guwen rode the Blood Prison Great Saint to Tianya Valley. Li Xiandao was actually there as well. He had not returned to Tianya Valley for many years. Guwen came to him and saluted, thanking him for the golden core he had given. "It seems the Supreme Sect treats you well. Someone helped you form a core. I originally wanted to send someone to help you." Li Xiandao stroked his beard and smiled. In response, Guwen could only express his gratitude without mentioning much about the Supreme Sect. After not seeing him for many years, Li Zuando's cultivation had reached the second level of the unification realm. He was only 314 years old, which was quite extraordinary. Guwen suspected that he could reach the Mahayana realm before the age of 500. Considering only this continent, it was estimated that only in Hao and Xiantiani's talents could compare with his, and his maximum lifespan was not less, exceeding 6,000 years. Achieving nirvana in this life would be no problem. Li Xiandao called over Ji Ruolai, Luo Hun, and LV Xian, and they all sat down to chat. He mentioned Divine Exotic City and planned to take people to explore it. According to the information I received, Divine Exotic City is an immortal path supreme treasure, containing numerous minor heavens and earths with countless opportunities. "Who among you wants to go?" Li Xiandao asked. All three expressed their interest, and Li Xiandao then looked at Guwen and did not expect Li Xiandao to invite him and quickly shook his head and said, "I'll pass. Given my cultivation, I would only be a burden to you, and I am not interested in the so-called immortal opportunities. I am self-aware enough to know that such immortal opportunities are not something I can covet. Li Xiandao laughed and said, I am also at the core formation realm. Do you mean I shouldn't go either? Pretending to be at core formation realm with the unification realm, do you still have the nerve? Guwen helplessly said, There is a difference even among those at the core formation realm. My strength is far inferior to yours. Li Xiandao raised his hand and pointed at him, did not insist, and just smiled. LV wanted to say that both of them should stop pretending, but he held back because he could not afford to offend either of them. They continued talking about divine exotic city, and Ji Ruolai began sharing the intelligence he had gathered about it, while Guwen silently listened. It was said that even the 7 stars spirit realm could not subdue divine exotic city. The immortal spirit of divine exotic city was hidden in the city and hard to find, so they had no choice but to release the city and let cultivators from all over the world come to find the immortal opportunities, thus forcing out the immortal spirit. Ji Ruolai received news from his family, saying that more overseas cultivators were on their way, which would inevitably affect the local immortal cultivation world. As the Holy Land, the 7 stars spirit realm doesn't consider us at all, causing trouble for the immortal cultivation world of the 3 dynasties. LV couldn't help but curse. Luo Han nodded. He also disapproved of the 7 stars spirit realm. During the great catastrophe of demons, the 7 stars spirit realm did not intervene. After Sword Venerable Fudao exterminated the demon ancestor, they descended from the mountain to save the world and gain a good reputation. Now, how many years have passed since the great catastrophe of demons ended, and they provoked so many powerful overseas cultivators? Can such a force really be considered a holy land? Li Xiandao did not comment on the 7 stars spirit realm, and Ji Ruolai was even more silent. Guwen also wondered what the 7 stars spirit realm intended to do. This was not just targeting the immortal cultivation world of the 3 dynasties. If all the overseas cultivators who came died, the impact would be massive. An hour later, Li Xiandao took Ji Ruolai, Luo Han, and LV and set off. Meanwhile, Tianya Valley became lively. 3 monkey demons found Guwen and chattered non-stop, giving off the vibe of being the kings in a mountain without a tiger. The Blood Prison Great Saint also became talkative, quarreling fiercely with Sun San. After Guwen finished picking medicinal herbs, he rode the Blood Prison Great Saint away leisurely, and Tianya Valley returned to silence. At dusk, divine exotic city stood tall on the wasteland, magnificent and grand. Quite a few cultivators and demons gathered in front of the 4 city gates, and some cultivators and demons directly flew into the city. The air above the city walls rippled, and then the entrance disappeared without a trace. 2 figures flew from the horizon. It was Jiang Qiong and the ghost mother of Ephemera. As they looked from a distance, their eyes showed astonishment. Before coming, they had heard many legends about divine exotic city, but seeing it in person now, they felt the shock. Not only was it a visual impact, but an indescribable ancient aura also surged toward them. Divine exotic city. It is said that obtaining it can summon divine soul demons to sweep across the heavens and earth. I never thought I would witness this legendary immortal path supreme treasure in my lifetime. The ghost mother of Ephemera marveled. Jiang Qiong frowned and said, Why can't I see anyone coming out? The ghost mother of Ephemera replied, There are countless minor heavens and earths inside divine exotic city. Without several years, it's very difficult to come out. Jiang Qiong fell silent, her beautiful eyes fixed on divine exotic city. At that moment, a loud bell suddenly roared, making everyone's divine soul tremble. Jiang Qiong and the ghost mother of Ephemera instinctively turned their heads and saw a golden light flying from the horizon at high speed across the wasteland and entering divine exotic city, with no one seeing its true form. Jiang Qiong asked in a low voice, What realm is that passerby? The ghost mother of Ephemera remained silent, unable to answer. Meanwhile, Guwen, staying in the 3rd Medicine Valley, also stared at divine exotic city. Even the wandering immortals have come. Will heaven and earth flying immortals appear next? Guin stood by a wooden railing, looking at the horizon and silently thought. He originally wasn't interested in Divine Exotic City, but as more and more old acquaintances entered the city, he had to pay more attention. If something happened to Divine Exotic City, half of the people he cared about would die. Just thinking about it felt distressing. After watching for a while, he moved to check each garden area. Inside a broken and desolate city, and Hao and Qi Jiuxiao sat cross-legged in front of a collapsed wall, their faces pale and obviously injured. Roar. A thunderous roar echoed through the heavens and earth, causing the wall behind them to tremble slightly. And Hao opened his eyes and frowned, asking in a low voice, "Senior, is there really an immortal opportunity here? Should we try another place?" They were in a minor heaven and earth inside Divine Exotic City. After being here for several months, they had not found many treasures, but often encountered demon beasts of the immortal path realm, facing life-threatening dangers. Even the powerful Qi Jiuxiao was injured. Qi Jiuxiao, with his eyes closed, said, "There are many powerful demon beasts here, indicating that this place must hide a supreme treasure. The desolation is only on the surface. If we can find the immortal spirit of Divine Exotic City, you and I will soar to the skies and become one of the dominions of heaven and earth." And Hao smiled bitterly. Even if we find the immortal spirit, can we protect Divine Exotic City with our cultivation? He admitted that Qi Jiuxiao was strong, but ever since they paired up, he often saw Qi Jiuxiao in difficult situations. Although Qi Jiuxiao claimed those opponents were in the loose immortal realm, it at least proved that within Divine Exotic City, he hadn't reached the top tier. How could he compete for the immortal spirit with such strength? The immortal spirit will choose its master. Once chosen, it can borrow the power of Divine Exotic City. Even you could possess the power of the immortal path realm. With the protection of Divine Exotic City's power, you and I will rise eventually, Qi Jiuxiao said nonchalantly. Upon hearing this, and Hao's eyes lit up. He was about to speak when suddenly, the city shook more violently. Qi Jiuxiao instantly appeared before him, grabbing him before vanishing from the spot. Rumble. Streets collapsed, and dust rolled up, wanting to envelop the skies. Qi Jiuxiao and Hao reappeared in the air. Looking closely, the world was submerged in rolling dust waves, and the dilapidated city below seemed in danger of being swallowed at any moment. Qi Jiuxiao, long time no see, an eerie voice rang out. Upon hearing this, Qi Jiuxiao's brows furrowed, and he said in a deep voice, "Qin Xuanin, you indeed came." As the words fell, the dust waves ahead suddenly parted, and figures emerged from it. Leading the group was a man in blue robes, graceful and proud. "Do you dare to come alone to our Six Stars Caves territory? Do you seek death?" Qin Xuanin stared at Qi Jiuxiao, a cold smile on his face. Qi Jiuxiao gripped Hao's shoulder with his right hand, and in his left hand, he condensed the dragon-slaying spear. He pointed the spear at Qin Xuanin and sneered. "What? Do you think you can defeat me with a few helpers? Have you forgotten the cowardly look when you knelt before me 100 years ago?" Upon hearing this, Qin Zunyan's eyes turned cold. With a roar, the dust waves behind them dispersed, revealing a terrifying giant demon. It was an elephant demon with a head as huge as a mountain, black skin, blood-red eyes, and scars covering its trunk. Its two tusks were like mountain ridges dispersing the dust waves below. Meanwhile, in another minor heaven and earth within Divine Exotic City, under the clear sky, Zhang Buku and Leah walked through a vast monastery. Along the way, there were numerous Buddha statues. Some stood on demon beasts, looking heroic, while others sat on lotus seats, appearing kind and merciful. "Brother Li, have you read Journey to the West?" Zhang Buku suddenly asked. Leah, walking in front, hummed, "When do I have time to read leisure books?" His gaze swept forward, his brows furrowed. Since coming here, he had felt uneasy, as if someone hidden was watching them, making him very uncomfortable. "Let me tell you, Journey to the West involves the Buddhism sect, and the Buddha is very powerful. Even the great sage equaling heaven, Sun Wukong, couldn't escape the five-finger mountain of the Buddha. Zhang Buku began introducing Journey to the West. He didn't actually want to talk about Journey to the West. His senses were sharper than Li Yas, and since stepping into this monastery, he felt danger. Strangely, they had walked around several times and couldn't find an exit. The two had a tacit understanding. Neither pointed out this fact and continued to stroll, their minds on high alert. Tap, tap, tap. A stone suddenly fell from the courtyard wall, startling Zhang Buku, who turned to see the stone rolling on the path behind, with no figures of people or demons on the walls around. He released his divine sense, but also failed to detect anything unusual. He turned back, about to say something, and in the next moment, his eyes widened. The space in front of him was empty. Leah had vanished. Chapter 218. My master is definitely more powerful than yours. After Leah disappeared, Zhang Buku immediately panicked. He flew into the air, and from above, the vast monastery stretched out endlessly. The interconnected courtyards seemed endless, dizzying to behold. He scanned the area but could not find any trace of Leah. It wasn't just Leah. He couldn't see a single living creature. Thoroughly alarmed, he began to fly around, searching for Leah. "Brother Li," he called out loudly, but unfortunately, there was no response. The eeriness and horror intensified, making him feel that danger was approaching. No matter where he flew, he saw no human figures or traces. Gradually, he felt that the courtyards he passed by became increasingly repetitive, causing his consciousness to blur. He did not know how long had passed before he gradually descended into a courtyard. The world spun. His eyelids grew heavy. This feeling made Zhang Buku extremely uncomfortable. He half knelt on the ground, supporting himself with his hands, feeling on the verge of fainting. "Damn it! I can't fall here." Zhang Buku struggled to maintain his last shred of rationality. He vaguely heard footsteps approaching from nearby. He turned his head with difficulty and saw a blurred, overlapping figure approaching. It seemed to be an old monk in a cassock. The old monk crouched down in front of him. Before Zhang Buku could see the monk's face, he saw the monk's hands, bony and gaunt, like a pair of ghostly claws, with very long nails. These hands alarmed Zhang Buku and instinctively filled him with fear. A faint chirping sound came from afar, making him feel dazed, as if he had heard this sound somewhere before. The old monk beside him stood up and turned to look, his body trembling, seemingly chastising something. Suddenly, the old monk's figure vanished into thin air, and he felt something land on his shoulder. His consciousness quickly cleared, and the world in his eyes returned to normal, no longer shaking. Once he was fully awake, he quickly stood up and turned his head to see a sparrow perched on his shoulder. "It's you!" Zhang Buku exclaimed with joy. It was the sparrow that had led him to the cave back then, where he obtained the demon core and learned the axe technique. He would never forget this sparrow. He instinctively wanted to grab the sparrow, but it suddenly flew away, landing on the courtyard wall, chirping non-stop. Zhang Buku couldn't understand it, but seeing the sparrow tilting its head, he immediately understood and followed the sparrow. The sparrow flapped its wings and flew away, and Zhang Buku hurriedly chased after it. After a while, the sparrow landed on a stone statue along the courtyard path. As Zhang Buku approached, he was astonished to find that the face of the statue was Li Ya's face. The statue's body was a Buddha statue, wearing a cassock with Li Ya's face on it, making Zhang Buku feel very uneasy. He began to call out to Li Ya, but unfortunately, received no response. Guan, in the form of a sparrow, looked at Zhang Buku and sighed inwardly. This kid's physique and cultivation were good, but his divine sense was lacking and needed more practice. Guan flapped his wings, continuously pecking at Li Ya's statue, guiding Zhang Buku. Zhang Buku took the hint and pushed the statue, but nothing happened. Guan landed on the statue's head, using his beak to peck at the statue's face, then looked up at Zhang Buku. I understand. Move aside. Zhang Buku stepped aside and said in a deep voice. Gu En immediately flew away. Zhang Buku swung his fist and smashed the statue's head with a punch. Rumbling, the ground shook violently. Spatial ripples appeared in the sky above the monastery, revealing various colors. Soon after, blood-red lights appeared, quickly replacing the clear sky. In less than 3 breaths' time, the monastery was under a night of blood, terrifying and horrifying. Zhang Buku stared ahead and found that all the stone statues had turned into white bones, hideous and terrifying. He leaped into the air. From above, the once boundless monastery now covered a mere 100-zhang area. In front of one temple, Liya was tied to an old tree, a ghostly claw covering his mouth and a ghostly hand pressing on his chest, preventing him from breaking free. These 2 ghostly hands' arms extended behind the tree, making one wonder how terrifying their owner was. Brother Li! Zhang Buku roared in anger, leaping with a stone axe in hand. Just as he flew into the courtyard, the temple door suddenly opened. I didn't expect you to see through my formation. Remarkable young human. A hoarse voice came from the darkness behind the door. Then an old monk in a cassock walked out. His figure was gaunt, his skin dark and covered in corpse spots, and his pupils had lost all color, pale to the extreme. Zhang Buku said nothing and swung his axe, cutting through the mountain. With one swing, the sky and earth trembled. The old monk vanished from his spot, and the temple was split in 2, with the connecting walls shattered, the cut extending outside the monastery. Gu En, in the form of a sparrow, landed on a distant eaves, watching the battle unfold. Zhang Buku was no match for the old monk, but Gu En could assist with his divine sense. The battle erupted in full scale. The monastery soon turned into a flat field, more and more evil ghosts emerging from the ground and rushing toward Zhang Buku. Zhang Buku was deeply surrounded, fighting more and more valiantly. Who? Show yourself! The old monk suddenly shouted in anger. Whenever he was about to kill Zhang Buku, a powerful divine sense would strike him, throwing his divine soul into chaos and making him lose focus. No one answered him, and Zhang Buku was killing with red eyes. Gu En multitasked, using divine sense to help Zhang Buku while observing the minor heaven and earth within divine exotic city. The powerful restrictions of divine exotic city could not stop his limitless freedom step. As long as he locked onto the auras of Zhang Buku and Liya, he could step in instantly. Now he could enter and exit divine exotic city freely, utterly unhindered. Entering divine exotic city revealed its vastness. The city's minor heaven and earth numbered at least 1,000. Some minor heaven and earth were larger than the entire Taizong dynasty. Combined, the internal space of divine exotic city was likely wider than the entire continent. Gu En saw Qi Zhouxiao and Hao being pursued, the pursuers likely from the 7 stars spirit realm, led by a loose immortal. He also saw the 9-fingered divine lord single-handedly facing endless divine and ghostly armies in a heaven, and was constantly using divine skills, domineering and unrivaled. Gu En tried to kill an evil ghost nearby but gained no lifespan from it. He instantly abandoned the idea of venturing through divine exotic city. These evil ghosts seemed to be from a single power, a power even Gu En could not fathom. The being who created divine exotic city must have a realm far beyond the heaven and earth flying immortal. Time flew by quickly. An hour later, Zhang Buku finally managed to kill the old monk, though it was Gu En's mana that had initially eliminated him, with Zhang Buku's axe energy following closely. Killing the old monk did not grant Gu En any lifespan either. Zhang Buku landed, gasping heavily. He reached the old tree and cut off the ghostly hands, causing Liya to fall, whom he caught. He subconsciously looked back but saw no trace of the sparrow. He couldn't care much about that and focused on attending to Liya. Brother Li, Brother Li. Zhang Buku whispered, using his spiritual power to heal Liya's wounds. At the same time, Gu En had already returned to Mystic Valley. To Zhang Buku and Liya, divine exotic city was incredibly far from the supreme sect, but to Guan it was just a step away. He approached the pill furnace in his room, preparing for alchemy. Not only Li Ye and Zhang Buku encountered troubles today, but several other old friends did as well. So Guan decided to stay in Mystic Valley and wait. Divine Exotic City Immortal Spirit. Guan seemed to catch something just now. He stood before the pill furnace, pondering while beginning to place herbs into the furnace. In the dark hall passage, and Hao and Qi Zhouxiao were walking quickly. Qi Zhouxiao suddenly stopped, leaning against the wall, and whispered, "We can stop now." And Hao looked around and asked, "Where is this place?" They had just flown out of a minor heaven and earth and ended up in this hall passage. After walking for a long time, passing numerous intersections, they had lost their way. They couldn't forcibly break through the walls or even penetrate them with their divine sense, making Hao very nervous. Qi Zhouxiao sat down, placing a small cauldron in front of him, then inserted 2 incense sticks. Watching him light the incense, Hao frowned and asked, "What are you doing?" Black blood seeped from Qi Zhouxiao's mouth. He forced a smile and said, "Those scum from 7 Stars Spirit Realm dared to hire 2 loose immortals to deal with me. I indeed couldn't defeat them, but since Qin Xuanin can call for help, so can I." And Hao widened his eyes and quickly asked, "Aren't you from overseas? Who can you call?" "He, my master is a being surpassing loose immortals. Once I light this incense, he will sense it and come to rescue us quickly." Qi Zhouxiao grinned. "Surpassing loose immortals." And Hao was stunned. He sat down and said, "Since you're calling your master, I'll call mine as well." He began calling his master in his mind. Previously, he had managed to call his master through his thoughts, but he was unsure. Last time, he wanted his master to save Shen Tianyi, and his master didn't come right away, though he did act later. He wasn't sure under what circumstances his master would act. Your master? Forget it. What formidable cultivator could the Supreme Sect have? Qi Zhouxiao couldn't help but laugh. And Hao said, "My master is definitely stronger than yours. Kid, don't disrespect my master." Qi Zhouxiao glared at him, and Hao was about to say that Qi Zhouxiao had also disrespected his master. Suddenly, the hall passage began to tremble, and a powerful killing intent attacked from the darkness. Damn it! They caught up so fast. Qi Zhouxiao immediately stood up, grabbed the small cauldron with the incense, and pulled Hao along, flying quickly. Though strong at the 9th layer of Nirvana realm, he couldn't break through the walls or ceiling, so he could only fly close to the ground. "Qi Zhouxiao, you can't escape." Qin Zunyan's voice came from behind, filled with frenzied excitement. At the same time, outside Divine Exotic City, LV Badian and a group of Supreme Sect cultivators watched the city gate, discussing their plans after entering the city. Suddenly, a terrifying aura came from afar, startling everyone outside the city to turn and look. They could only see a streak of light breaking through the sky, disappearing into Divine Exotic City in the blink of an eye, swift as lightning, and couldn't see what was within the light. Chapter 219 Master. Qi Zhouxiao took Hao and fled quickly, passing dozens of intersections. They suddenly flew into a vast palace whose length and width were difficult to estimate. The palace was dimly lit, with rows of stone pillars, most of which had extinguished oil lamps hanging on them. As soon as Hao entered the palace, he felt a cold wind blowing towards him, making him shiver uncontrollably. Before he could think more, a terrible killing intent came from behind. A dark red long scarf flew out from the darkness, swiftly passing by the two and circling in front, trying to entangle them. Qi Zhouxiao took out the dragon-slaying spear and threw it forward. A dragon's roar exploded, and a golden dragon condensed, illuminating the whole palace with golden light. The golden dragon formed by the dragon-slaying spear fiercely collided with the dark red scarf, stirring up strong winds that ravaged the palace space. And Hao only felt himself about to be swept away. Fortunately, Qi Zhouxiao was holding him, but even so, he was still very uncomfortable. Qi Zhouxiao leaped up, his toes stepping on the dragon-slaying spear. He flipped into the air, jumping over the dark red scarf, and then turned to look below. The dark red scarf was like a red river plunging into the darkness, with no end in sight. Figures attacked from all directions, quickly surrounding them. Qin Xuanin flew from the front, landing less than 30 feet from the two, and said with a sneer, "Qi Zhouxiao, where do you think you're going?" Qi Zhouxiao put down an how and coldly said, "Want to kill me? Fine, let this kid go first." And Hao was urgent, just about to speak but was stopped by Qi Zhouxiao raising his hand. Qin Xuanin laughed dismissively. "Do you think you're in any position to negotiate with me right now?" As he finished speaking, a figure appeared beside him. It was an old man in white with a cold face holding a jade lamp. Qi Zhouxiao slightly turned his head, glancing back. Another loose immortal had already appeared behind him. "Master," and Hao whispered through clenched teeth. Qi Zhouxiao heard his words and smiled. "And Hao, it seems your master cannot hear your call, but my master is coming soon," Qi Zhouxiao said softly with a smile. With these words, the faces of the 7 Stars Spirit Realm cultivators slightly changed. The old man in white beside Qi Zhouxiao instinctively turned around to look. "You bully my disciple. Does Divine Soul True Lord agree?" A cold voice echoed through the palace, the killing intent in the tone making everyone feel as if they were in an ice cellar. Qi Jiuxio's face once again showed an unruly and wild smile, looking at Qin Xuanin as if he were prey. The autumn wind blew, lifting the fallen leaves off the ground and gently putting them down again. Guwen was sweeping the ground, and the blood prison great saint beside him curiously asked, "Master, there are so many disciples in the valley. Why do you sweep the ground yourself?" Not only Guwen but other disciples were also sweeping the ground in the 3rd Medicine Valley. However, compared to the vast Medicine Valley, the hundreds of people seemed sparse. It's sometimes good to sweep the ground. Feeling the earth with your hands and feet might lead to some insights, Guwen casually replied. He sounded very perfunctory, but his words fell on the ears of the Blood Prison Great Saint and seemed very reasonable. The Blood Prison Great Saint began to walk back and forth, feeling the earth and nature. Guwen looked toward the direction of Divine Exotic City, where 4 wandering immortals had gathered, 2 from the 7 Stars Spirit Realm. One was Qi Jiuxio's master, and another was Nine-Finger Divine Lord. Nine-Finger Divine Lord was leading Chu Jingfeng to search for immortal spirit, while the other 3 wandering immortals were engaged in chaotic battles. Qi Jiuxio's master had killed 2 loose immortals and more than a dozen 7 Stars Spirit Realm disciples, attracting 2 wandering immortals. The situation was not good, as Qi Jiuxio's master had already fallen into a disadvantage. Guwen was not in a hurry to take action, first letting Qi Jiuxio's master fight for a while longer. He had to sweep this area clean. After a while, Guwen looked towards the west. Another wandering immortal had arrived. "It's really lively," Guwen thought to himself, feeling a bit worried. The increasing presence of immortal path beings on this continent could easily bring catastrophe to the immortal cultivation world of the 3 dynasties. He just hoped this matter would end soon. In a minor heaven and earth within Divine Exotic City, yellow sand covered the sky, and the wind raged wildly. On the desert, and Hao stood in front of Qi Zhouxiao, with a faint golden light around them, blocking the wind and sand. Qi Zhouxiao was sitting and healing his wounds, looking ahead. Booming sounds kept coming, with heat waves, flying leaves, and gold flames entangled and surging. In the distance, mana rainbows flashed brilliantly, shaking the heavens and the earth. The battle of wandering immortals. How terrifying! And Hao could not see the figures of the 3 wandering immortals. Even with the protection of the formation, he felt his body might turn to dust at any moment, which was an unbearably uncomfortable feeling. Qi Zhouxiao could barely see the wandering immortals battle, and because of that, his face looked even gloomier. His most respected master had already fallen into disadvantage. He realized that doom was inevitable. This time, he had also implicated in Hao and his master, which made his fists clench tightly. Damn it! Qi Zhouxiao realized for the first time the power of 7 Stars Spirit Realm. Before he could get close to the man in purple robes, a terrifying giant scorpion pincer swept in from the side, directly catching him and pulling him back, disappearing into the sandstorm. "Master!" Qi Juxiao shouted hoarsely. The man in purple robes raised his right hand, igniting a strange white flame in his palm. He looked at Qi Juxiao and Hao with a mocking smile. He approached the formation step by step, the wind and sand behind him swirling madly, with waves of qi created by mana soaring like dragons, creating a spectacular scene. "Just wait for death. Soon your master will come down to join you," the man in purple robes said coldly. As he finished speaking, he was already less than 10 steps away from the formation. He deliberately approached slowly, tormenting Qi Juxiao and Hao's minds while trying to distract Qi Bei. And Hao looked at him and couldn't help but recall the scene when Xian Tianyi was held back by mysterious cultivators. Just like last time, he was still utterly useless, weak enough to hate himself. He gritted his teeth, closed his eyes, and couldn't help shouting out loudly, "Master!" He screamed with all his might, his voice echoing inside the minor heaven and earth. "Master? What? You also have a master? Can your master compare to Mahayana?" The man in purple robes laughed with more disdain. Before he finished his sentence, a hand suddenly pressed on his shoulder, forcibly stopping him. Qi Jiuxiao's pupils dilated, staring in shock at the figure behind the man in purple robes. The man in purple robes instinctively tried to use divine skills to dodge. He was horrified to find that the mana in his body was solidified and immovable. He tried to use his own qi to break free, but the hand on his shoulder was as heavy as the heaviest mountain in the world, pressing down on him. The more he struggled, the greater the pressure felt. "Do you think I have the cultivation level of the Mahayana realm?" A cold voice came from behind the man in purple robes, and Hao heard it too and opened his eyes to see. When he saw the scene outside the formation, he was instantly overjoyed. "Master, you finally came." And Hao looked at Guwen with surging emotions, his eyes quickly turning red. Guwen, who had displayed the 9 extremes yin-yang body, ignored Hao. He was standing sideways, his left hand pressing on the shoulder of the man in purple robes with a casual posture. Yet the man in purple robes couldn't move. Who are you?" Another voice rang out, filled with fear. As he finished speaking, a figure suddenly appeared behind Guwen. It was a man in red robes, dressed extravagantly, exuding powerful energy, holding a short sword, and stabbing towards Guwen's lower back. Guwen, holding the shoulder of the man in purple robes, vanished into thin air, causing the man in red robes to miss. Before the man in red robes could turn around, he felt an unimaginable force hitting his back. His body uncontrollably fell to his knees on the sand, and then a foot stepped on his back, pushing his spine down. Guwen, with his left hand pressing on the shoulder of the man in purple robes and his right foot stomping on the back of the man in red robes, Su. Chapter 220. The legendary heaven and earth flying immortal. Seeing Guwen's fierce suppression of the 2 wandering immortals, Qi Juxiao was dumbfounded, while Hao trembled with excitement. Guwen glanced at the purple-robed man in his hand and cast a lifespan detection. 9 stars. True Lord, 5th layer of Wandering Immortal Realm 42089/150000/160000. He then looked at the red-robed man at his feet and performed the lifespan detection as well. True Lord Kangi, 6th layer of Wandering Immortal Realm 56803/16000/190000. Both are quite old. They all call themselves True Lords. Could it be that True Lord is a title in the 7-star spirit realm? As Guwen was pondering, True Lord Kangi at his feet struggled to speak. "Who might you be, sir? If that boy is indeed your disciple, take him away." Boom! The whirlwind behind Guwen suddenly exploded, darkening Hao and Qi Jiuxiao's vision. A massive black scorpion, as large as a giant mountain, attacked, its pincers clamping towards Gu, an immortal swallowing scorpion. Its speed was insanely fast, so fast that Qi Juxiao and Hao couldn't react in time. They only saw the immortal swallowing scorpion attack suddenly, and before they could see it clearly, it exploded. Black venom splattered everywhere, followed by an even more terrifying roar. Rumble. A vast cloud of dust rose behind Guin, covering the sky with black venom. Impossible! The 9 stars true lord, held by Guin, had his eyes wide open in disbelief. That immortal swallowing scorpion was also in the wandering immortal realm, yet it died instantly? He didn't even see what method Guin used, feeling that as soon as the scorpion's pincers touched Guin, its body exploded. You successfully seized 57,009 years of lifespan from the immortal swallowing scorpion, second level of traveling immortal realm. Seeing the notification, Guin felt slightly satisfied. The immortal swallowing scorpion died under the Taoist gang primal energy, which was manifested by the Ji family's divine skill, Heaven and Earth Path Gang. Whenever someone attacked Guan's body, this divine skill would trigger, killing the attacker. True Lord Kangyi could neither extend his divine sense nor turn his head, but he felt as if he would be annihilated the moment the Taoist gang primal energy exploded. He had never felt so desperate. The opponent had definitely surpassed the wandering immortal realm. How could such a being exist on this backward continent? The 9 stars true lord, witnessing the explosion of the Taoist gang primal energy, was even more terrified. At this moment, the 2 wandering immortals lost all will to fight, feeling only endless fear. The longer they lived, the more they feared death. Senior, give, True Lord Kangyi said, trembling. Although Guin did not receive any hostility prompt, True Lord Kangyi dared to let the immortal swallowing scorpion attack him, truly courting death. Guin suddenly exerted force with his right foot, directly crushing True Lord Kangyi's body into blood mist, leaving only a storage bag. The 9 stars True Lord's eyes widened in despair. From Guin's palm, the breaking path divine light burst forth, instantly reducing him to dust, leaving no trace behind. The storage bag of the 9 stars True Lord also fell to the ground. The 2 wandering immortals died without any resistance, and Hao and Qi Juxiao were stunned. They knew how powerful these 2 wandering immortals were, which made them even more bewildered. 2 notifications popped up before Guin. He successfully seized 20,000 years of lifespan. A figure flew over and landed behind Guin, bowing and cupping his fists. Thank you, Senior, for saving me. It was Qi Jiuxiao's master, Qi Bei. Qi Bei looked extremely miserable, his body oozing black blood. Don't reveal this to anyone, or you'll become my enemy, Guin warned before disappearing into thin air, taking the 2 storage bags with him. Qi Bei looked up, but his divine sense could no longer detect Guin, making him sigh. At this moment, Qi Juxiao rushed out of the formation, supporting Qi Bei. Master, are you okay? Qi Juxiao asked anxiously. Qi Bei struggled to speak. Bring out the medicine cauldron. I need to expel the poison. Qi Juxiao hurried to comply. Soon, Qi Bei entered the cauldron to heal, taking out his prepared medicinal herbs and spirit water. And Hao approached the great cauldron and cautiously asked, What's the origin of the immortal swallowing scorpion? Qi Juxiao, staring at the great cauldron, said solemnly, The immortal swallowing scorpion is one of the 9 ancient deadly poisons of the ocean and the most powerful venomous insect alive today. If an immortal is swallowed by it, they instantly turn into toxic blood. Stung by it, their cultivation dissipates, and gods and Buddhas cannot save them. So terrifying? And Hao was startled, not knowing how to comfort Qi Juxiao. Qi Juxiao turned to him and asked, Who exactly is your master? It's simply, Guan's earlier performance was terrifying. Even though Qi Juxiao was saved, he feared Guan's power. It was a fear born from something beyond his comprehension. I can't reveal my master's name. He forbids it. And Hao shook his head, feeling proud inside. Whenever he encountered a higher realm existence, he would wonder what realm his master had reached. However, His master kept breaking his understanding time and time again. No matter how powerful an entity appeared before his master, they were but ants. He realized that although he was extremely talented, compared to his master, he wasn't worth mentioning. He even suspected that his own talents were due to his master's favor. Qi Juxiao fell silent after hearing this. He recalled Gu An's previous demeanor, eyes showing admiration. A true man cultivating the immortal path should have such a presence. Elsewhere, Gu An did not return to the Supreme Sect but instead arrived at an isolated island on the sea with one step. He appeared in the forest, quickly sorting through the storage bags of the two true lords, destroying suspicious items, and throwing the treasures into his own storage bag. As his storage bag wasn't enough to hold the inheritance of these two, he had to refine one of their storage bags. After a while, he finally left. He entered his own grotto heaven with one step, emptied everything out, and burned the 9 stars true lord's storage bag to ashes. Although he checked and found nothing wrong, he still wanted to be cautious. After doing all this, he returned to the Supreme Sect. He stood on the mountaintop next to the Mystic Valley, gazing into the distance. Although it was easy to kill 3 wandering immortals, he wasn't at peace. He knew things were about to escalate, but he didn't regret it. He couldn't let the enemies survive. There was another way. He also wanted to find the immortal spirit of the divine exotic city and give it to someone to end this conflict prematurely. Gu An had no interest in divine exotic city, despite its power, because its karma was too great. He didn't want any trouble. Giving it to someone else to follow the Star Sea congregations away would be the best result. He had visited divine exotic city twice and vaguely tracked the immortal spirit's whereabouts. Several days later, within the minor heaven and earth of divine exotic city, the wind and sand had ceased. Qi Juxiao helped Qi Bei, who had just emerged from the cauldron, to sit down. Qi Bei, now dressed in a clean white robe, had a pale face and disheveled hair, lacking any wandering immortal demeanor. Sitting down, he sighed, "I didn't expect divine exotic city to attract a heaven and earth flying immortal," and Hao's face showed curiosity upon hearing this. Heaven and earth flying immortal? Is it the legendary realm capable of traveling beyond the heavens? Qi Jiuxiao's eyes brightened with excitement. Qi Bei nodded. It must be. Being in the same realm, he couldn't have possibly defeated those 2 true lords so easily. He looked at Qi Juxiao and said, "Senior saved us, so we must keep our promise and not speak of his intervention. Just say it was cultivators from the Star Sea congregations, got it?" Qi Juxiao nodded heavily. Qi Bei then looked at An Hao, scrutinizing him. He could see that An Hao had extraordinary roots and asked, "Is your master also from the Supreme Sect?" He could see the karma surrounding An Hao but could only see the past 10 years, not the interactions between An Hao and his master. As for LV Baitian, he was quickly dismissed. A mere unification realm was not worth his attention. "I'm not sure, he probably isn't." And Hao shook his head, keeping a cautious mind and not fully trusting Qi Bei. Qi Bei smiled. "You're very fortunate, young man. With such a master, your future is limitless. How about joining the Star Sea congregations later?" And Hao hesitated. "I don't have just one master. My other master is the sect leader of the Supreme Sect, and I have to take on the responsibility of strengthening my sect." Qi Bai's smile grew even more gentle. "It's not about leaving the Supreme Sect. You can train with the Star Sea congregations for a while and help establish good relations between the 2 sections. The Star Sea congregations can help you grow strong quickly. Once you're powerful enough, you'll better protect the Supreme Sect. In the future, if the Star Sea congregations face difficulties, you can offer your help." Hearing this, An Hao found it hard to refuse and looked towards Qi Juxiao. Qi Juxiao snorted. "Is my master going to deceive you?" Shen Tianyi is the best example. Traveling together all this way, he had learned about the relationship between Shen Tianyi and An Hao. He also wanted to win An Hao over. Winning over An Hao meant winning over the heaven and earth flying immortal from a few days ago. A heaven and earth flying immortal, The Star Sea congregations had produced such beings, but those were legends, and he had never seen one with his own eyes. And Hao hesitated for a while but finally nodded in agreement, bringing smiles to Qi Bei and Qi Zhouxiao. Qi Bai's smile faded as he said, I haven't completely expelled the immortal swallowing scorpion's toxin. Let's leave Divine Exotic City to avoid the Seven Stars Spirit Realm's pursuit. But Divine Exotic City? Qi Zhouxiao hesitated. Qi Bei glared at him angrily. There is a heaven and earth flying immortal in Divine Exotic City, along with other wandering immortal presences. Do you think you have the qualifications to compete for the immortal spirit? Qi Zhouxiao immediately backed down, scratching his head with an awkward smile, not daring to insist further. And Hao felt some regret, but leaving now wouldn't be a loss. He had found many treasures alongside Qi Zhouxiao and had gained a lot, so the three of them packed up and began to search for a way out. In a dark hall, one side of the wall was adorned with a row of brass oil lamps, some of which had already gone out. In front of the lamp wall stood a woman in a purple dress with a veil, her long hair coiled into a bun. Her revealed eyebrows were delicate, but the coldness in her eyes added a sense of mystery to her aura. A boy dressed in a sleeveless top appeared on her shoulder, tilting his head and asking, Mother, what are you looking at? Upon closer inspection, the boy's feet were embedded in the shoulder. He believed that as soon as the immortal spirit appeared, his master would inevitably control it and thus dominate Divine Exotic City. The moon set and the sun rose. The sun rose in the east outside the city. Chu Jingfeng was practicing qi absorption cultivation when he suddenly felt the ground tremble. He opened his eyes to find the surrounding buildings shaking. The nine-fingered Divine Lord, who was sitting opposite him, slowly stood up. Before Chu Jingfeng could ask, the nine-fingered Divine Lord raised his hand, and both of them soared into the sky. Chu Jingfeng looked down and his eyes widened in fear. He saw endless demons and ghosts appearing in all directions, surging like black waves, engulfing the city's buildings and stimulating his eyes. This is the true power of Divine Exotic City, the Divine Soul Demons. Over countless years, an endless number of Divine Soul Demons have accumulated here. This is a force that can overthrow the mortal world. The nine-fingered Divine Lord spoke indifferently, looking into the distance. Before Chu Jingfeng could respond, the nine-fingered Divine Lord raised his right hand and pressed down. Boom! The city below instantly collapsed, and countless Divine Soul Demons dissipated into ghostly mist. It seemed as if the entire earth was collapsing, with dust flying up, turning the sky and ground murky. Chu Jingfeng vaguely heard a child's playful laughter, like a ghost, giving him goosebumps. Divine Exotic City, East Gate. The gate stood open, and from outside, the streets inside appeared empty. Suddenly, the space inside the gate rippled, and three people emerged. Qi Bei, Qi Zhouxiao, and an Hao. The three of them walked 10 steps forward. And Hao turned to look back, seeing the majestic city gate of Divine Exotic City, and sighed in relief. Finally, they were out. And Hao! A voice came from afar, and Hao looked and saw a group of cultivators in the distance, including LV Baitian. And Hao quickly called out, Master! He was about to go over, but Qi Bei blocked him. From now on, do not acknowledge your association with the Supreme Sect, Qi Bei said sternly, his gaze fixed on the distance. And Hao frowned and asked, Why? They are here. Qi Bei's expression turned serious. He raised his hand, pulling out a magic artifact, ready for battle. Qi Zhouxiao also took out the dragon-slaying spear, cursing under his breath. It's troublesome to be in the territory of the Seven Stars Spirit Realm. These guys move fast. After 7 days and the fall of 2 wandering immortals, it's impossible for the Seven Stars Spirit Realm not to have noticed. Qi Bei said calmly. Qi Zhouxiao looked at him and asked, Master, what do we do? Qi Bei sneered, If the Seven Stars Spirit Realm makes a move, Our Star Sea congregations will respond in kind. Hearing this, Qi Jiuxiao showed a smile of delight. He turned to look into the distance, his face lighting up with excitement. So it's you, Qi Bei of the Qi family from the Star Sea congregations. Do you know the consequences of killing our disciples in the territory of the Seven-Star Spirit Realm? An icy voice echoed through the sky, the killing intent in it sending a chill down the spines of all beings outside the city. The disciples of the Supreme Sect quickly stood up, nervously looking into the distance. Terrifying auras erupted from all directions, shaking the earth and mountains. And Hao looked around and found that they were surrounded. Such a fearsome aura. Could it be from wandering immortals as well? He was secretly alarmed, his eyes turning towards Qi Bei, wondering if this senior could hold out. When would the wandering immortals of the Star Sea congregations arrive? Oh, so this land belongs to the Seven Stars Spirit Realm. I thought you had long abandoned it. A domineering voice rang out, opposing the previous wandering immortal of the Seven Stars Spirit Realm. Qi Bei clearly recognized the owner of this voice, a smile appearing on his face. The true battle of the wandering immortals was about to begin. The world was desolate, and smoky ghostly mist pervaded the land. Chu Jingfeng stood on a gourd, surrounded by a faint light veil. His eyes were fixed ahead. The Nine-Finger Divine Lord stood bare-chested, surrounded by fiery energy, his hair wild, looking like a war god, his posture imposing. In front of the Nine-Finger Divine Lord floated a fiery red phoenix, its wings spanning 1,000 feet, flapping as fiery waves surged, like dragons sweeping towards the Nine-Finger Divine Lord. Humph! Since you refuse to bow, I can only subdue you. The Nine-Finger Divine Lord spoke, his eyes cold, his body covered with black runes, crawling and horrific. With those words, he suddenly charged towards the phoenix. The phoenix let out an ear-piercing screech, flapping its wings once more. The surrounding dust waves scattered, revealing terrifying ghostly figures, each 100 feet tall, clad in battle armor, wielding long weapons, like ancient divine generals, exuding an unrivaled aura. In the blink of an eye, the Nine-Finger Divine Lord was engulfed by these terrifying ghostly figures. Boom! A violent gale exploded, scattering the ghostly figures. The Nine-Finger Divine Lord burst forth with relentless energy, striking towards the phoenix, shaking the mountains and rivers. This punch shattered space, and an ancient bell seemingly from the River of Time emerged from a space rift, crashing directly into the phoenix. The enormous phoenix seemed small as a sparrow before a tree compared to this ancient bell. The phoenix let out a mournful cry, as chains emerged from the surface of the bell, quickly binding the phoenix. No matter how it struggled, it couldn't break free from the chains. The air was filled with a frenzied energy as more and more divine soul demons approached from all directions, of various sizes and forms. With even 1,000-foot-tall divine soul descending from the sky, the Nine-Finger Divine Lord faced countless enemies alone, his punches and kicks like the wind, shaking the mountains and rivers, unstoppable. Chu Jingfeng stood on the gourd, his blood boiling as he looked on. Though he couldn't see the specific movements of the Nine-Finger Divine Lord clearly, seeing those divine soul demons being destroyed one after another, he could feel the immense power of the Nine-Finger Divine Lord. So strong. At this moment, Chu Jingfeng even felt that the Sword Dao was not the ultimate path. The path of the physical body was the strongest. The world roared, and the earth continuously raised dust. No matter how many divine soul demons the Nine-Finger Divine Lord eradicated, there were always more to come. Rumble. An enormous shadow rose at the edge of the world, like a mountain towering up, awe-inspiring. Chu Jingfeng looked from afar, feeling a chilling aura. What is that? He thought, terrified. Before he could think further, the mysterious giant shadow stepped out from the dust waves that covered the sky. It was a figure 10,000 feet tall, with a strong build, each muscle like a rocky mountain, exuding a power that made all living things fear. It was entirely black with disheveled hair, wearing only armored pants, and holding a massive axe in its hand. Wielding the axe in both hands, it swept forward. The force of the axe, even without reaching, sent a devastating wind along its path, nearly flinging the gourd Chu Jingfeng stood on. The nine-fingered divine lord appeared in front of the gourd out of thin air, throwing a punch. Dong! The deafening roar echoed, as the nine-fingered divine lord met the mysterious giant's axe with his own power. Both sides retreated. The nine-fingered divine lord frowned, feeling his right fist numb. The mysterious giant stabilized after retreating several steps, then swung the axe again. This time, the mysterious force from the heavens gathered on the axe blade, slashing down with the power of creation. The nine-fingered divine lord raised his hand, which had only 4 fingers, extending 2 fingers as a golden beam shot out, piercing through the murkiness of the world, sweeping all obstacles aside. Boom! The 10,000-foot-tall giant shadow was annihilated by the golden light, leaving a vacuum in the world, and a huge canyon appeared below, astonishing Chu Jingfeng. The nine-fingered divine lord turned and flew towards the phoenix. The phoenix was still trapped by the ancient bell, unable to move. Just as the nine-fingered divine lord was about to approach the phoenix, a figure appeared out of thin air, raising a hand to capture the phoenix. The phoenix with wings spanning 1,000 feet shrank to the size of a palm. "Who are you?" the nine-fingered divine lord asked in a deep voice. He didn't rashly advance, as he couldn't gauge the person's strength. Guwen, in his 9 extremes yin-yang body form, turned to the nine-fingered divine lord and said, "The immortal spirit, I'll take it." The nine-fingered divine lord's face instantly twisted with rage. And H. Chapter 222. Divine exotic immortal spirit recognizes its master. Facing the furious nine-fingered divine lord, Guwen remained composed. Holding the phoenix, he said, "Feel carefully, and you will understand that this karmic consequence is not something you can bear." Hearing this, the nine-fingered divine lord, who was about to attack, instinctively dispersed his divine sense. A few moments later, his expression changed drastically, and fear filled his eyes. The divine soul demons were still pouring out, throwing themselves at them recklessly, their roars echoing through the heavens. Guwen suddenly squeezed the phoenix in his hand, and the divine soul demons in the heavens were obliterated one after another, turning into ashes, and the noise abruptly ceased. Chu Jingfeng stood on his gourd, turned his head, and looked at Guwen in the distance, his face changing dramatically. A dark purple demon shadow, surrounded by demonic chi. Fud! He had just uttered a word when a terrifying divine sense locked onto him, scaring him into silence. The nine-fingered divine lord also regained his calm. He looked at Guwen and asked, "What do you plan to do?" He could sense a more horrifying presence brewing beneath the earth. Purely in terms of aura, it was beyond what he could contend with. Guwen did not answer but instead flipped his palm downward. Rumble. The earth shattered, rocks rose into the air, and the entire world seemed on the verge of collapsing. The momentum released by Guwen was so terrifying that even the nine-fingered divine lord felt fear. Just how high is his cultivation level? The nine-fingered divine lord thought to himself, feeling fortunate. If he had acted rashly earlier, or if the other party had directly ambushed him, he might have been in grave danger. Chu Jingfeng also looked nervously downward. Rocks ascended around him, flying towards the sky. As far as the eye could see, the distant earth was breaking apart endlessly, a visual impact so intense that he did not dare to breathe. Suddenly, as if seeing something, his eyes widened, and his body trembled. As the earth shattered, a massive black object appeared below, boundless and terrifying. In the daylight, this extreme black mass looked so horrifying and scary. Looking from above, the black mass below was writhing. It was so immense that its shape couldn't be discerned, much less identified. Guwen fixed his eyes on it. Divine exotic immortal spirit, heaven and earth flying immortal realm 3rd layer 0/0/0, No lifespan was shown. But there was a realm. Gu-N's right hand, which was suspended in the air, suddenly clenched, and the gigantic divine exotic immortal spirit below began to shrink at a visible speed. This was a divine skill universe in the palm. Previously, he had used this divine skill to bring the phoenix into his palm. This time, he desired to capture a heaven and earth flying immortal. The divine exotic immortal spirit struggled frantically, but wrapped in Gu-N's mana, it had no way to escape. Under the watchful eyes of the nine-fingered divine lord and Chu Jingfeng, the divine exotic immortal spirit, now a black mass, rapidly shrank. Eventually, it fell into Gu-N's hand, resembling a mass of black qi, constantly changing shape. Gu-En then disappeared from his original spot, leaving the nine-fingered divine lord and Chu Jingfeng behind, unable to recover their wits for a long time. After a long while, Chu Jingfeng flew to the nine-fingered divine lord's side and asked nervously, "Master, what should we do next?" He knew that the figure earlier was Sword Venerable Fudao, but he decided to keep it a secret. Sword Venerable Fudao was the most revered existence in the hearts of all disciples of the Supreme Sect. He had repeatedly saved the Supreme Sect and the human race of the three dynasties. Chu Jingfeng felt that he owed Sword Venerable Fudao his life, so he chose to side with him. Even if he revealed Sword Venerable Fudao's identity, he felt it would only push the nine-fingered divine lord into the abyss. From what had been shown earlier, the nine-fingered divine lord was no match for Sword Venerable Fudao. Thinking of this, Chu Jingfeng felt deeply emotional. During the days he followed the nine-fingered divine lord, he had thought that the nine-fingered divine lord was stronger than Sword Venerable Fudao, and that he had struck the ultimate blessing. But the result was, he couldn't help but wonder just how powerful Sword Venerable Fudao was. It now seemed that Sword Venerable Fudao was not from the Supreme Sect but was merely hiding there to protect them. The nine-fingered divine lord took a deep breath and said, "It's time to leave." Having the divine exotic immortal spirit taken away made him furious, but Gu-N's universe in the palm divine skill had extinguished any desire to fight. Moreover, the aura emitted by the divine exotic immortal spirit was clearly not something he could handle. If the mysterious person hadn't appeared earlier, he might have been swallowed by the divine exotic immortal spirit and turned into a divine soul demon. Chu Jingfeng secretly breathed a sigh of relief upon hearing his master's words. He truly feared that his master would have an obsession. After wandering through divine exotic city for so long, he had already reaped some rewards and was eager to return to the Supreme Sect to meditate in seclusion. On the other side, Gu-En arrived at the most secluded minor heaven and earth. There were no living beings here. The sky was dim, and the ground was dotted with trees that looked like evil ghosts. He glanced at the divine exotic immortal spirit in his hand, no longer struggling but trembling. Just as Gu-En hesitated about whom to give it to, it suddenly burst open and then drilled into Gu-En's palm. The process was extremely quick. When Gu-En wanted to stop it, he suddenly felt its emotions. It was pleading. Gu-En fell silent. Soon, he felt his mana merging into the divine exotic immortal spirit's body. This was a process of accepting a master that he had never experienced before. He was taking control of the divine exotic immortal spirit and the entire divine exotic city. A 30-minute incense time later, the divine exotic immortal spirit reappeared, condensed in Gu-En's palm. From now on, Gu-En was the master of the divine exotic immortal spirit and the master of divine exotic city. This made him feel somewhat complicated. If he had forcibly stopped it earlier, the divine exotic immortal spirit would have turned to ashes, so he had to accept it. Of course, now Gu-En could easily squeeze the divine exotic immortal spirit, causing it to cease to exist. After accepting the master, Gu-En gained more understanding of divine exotic city. Even if the divine exotic immortal spirit was destroyed, as long as divine exotic city remained, a new divine exotic immortal spirit would be born. Whether it was the same one was unclear, as it resisted death much. "Master," The voice of the divine, exotic, immortal spirit echoed in Guen's mind, sounding like a young boy. Guen asked, "Can you share your power with others, hiding the fact that I am your master, and making others appear as your master?" The divine, exotic, immortal spirit wiggled in his palm, suddenly transforming into a small black figure. It had no hair or facial features, just a body resembling a 5- or 6-year-old boy, standing about 10 centimeters tall. The divine, exotic, immortal spirit tilted its head, considered it for a moment, and said, "It can be done, but wouldn't you be unhappy?" Guen replied, "No, I want you to protect one of my juniors, but you must not reveal my presence to him. You have to pretend that he is your master." Upon hearing this, the divine, exotic, immortal spirit nodded obediently. Guen disappeared with it. He arrived in another realm, a dense forest where Li Ye and Zhang Buku were resting. Guen directed the divine, exotic, immortal spirit with his mind to find Li Ye. The divine, exotic, immortal spirit immediately leaped from his hand and went to find Li Ye. In Divine Exotic City, the person Guen cared most about was undoubtedly Li Ye. Although Li Ye had numerous opportunities, he was clearly far behind geniuses like An Hao and LV Xian, so Guen decided to help him. As for An Hao, whether he had Divine Exotic City or not, he would eventually rise. If he joined the Star Sea congregations, he would possess immortal treasures no less powerful than the dragon-slaying spear, even without a fake immortal treasure like Divine Exotic City. The dragon-slaying spear was highly powerful, allowing Qi Jiuxiao to display power comparable to a loose immortal. The divine, exotic, immortal spirit hopped along its way, its aura elusive, unnoticed by Li Ye and Zhang Buku as they meditated. When the divine, exotic, immortal spirit landed on Li Ye's shoulder, a sudden scare made him instinctively open his eyes. "Screech!" The divine, exotic, immortal spirit called out and then plunged into Li Ye's face, startling him to his feet. What was that? Li Ye kept touching his face but felt nothing. Zhang Buku, equally startled, rushed over. Upon learning that something had entered Li Ye's body, Zhang Buku panicked. The two fumbled around, even using their divine senses to scan, but found nothing strange. After a while, Li Ye suddenly stopped, his expression peculiar. "Brother Li, are you okay?" Zhang Buku asked nervously. Li Ye took a deep breath, looked at Zhang Buku, and said with a complicated expression, "Brother, I think I have been accepted as the master by an immortal spirit." "What?" Zhang Buku's eyes widened, unable to believe his ears. "Is it true?" "It is." "Why you? What do you mean? Am I unworthy?" "How are you worthy?" "You. Show some respect. I can command divine soul demons. If you want to leave, it will be up to me." "Brother Li, we are supposed to live and die together as brothers." "You dog! Stop talking like that." In the distance, Guen listened to Li Ye and Zhang Buku bicker. Under the demonic qi, a smile appeared on his lips. He turned around and disappeared once more. He was the true master of Divine Exotic City. Within its confines, he could see all the minor heavens and the divine soul demons hidden beneath each. The number of divine soul demons was indeed staggering, and the entire Divine Exotic City was still in a state of recovery. It would only grow stronger until it became a true immortal treasure once more. Immortal treasures existed eternally. Even if severely damaged, they could recover on their own, making Guen view them differently. Guen planned to harvest the heavenly materials and earthly treasures in Divine Exotic City. Now, everything in the city belonged to him and was not to be shared with anyone else. Under the rolling thunderclouds, Jiang Qiong sat meditating on the edge of a cliff, below which a majestic river of lava surged, occasionally sending hot waves crashing against the mountain sides. She opened her eyes and frowned. "Why hasn't she returned yet?" Jiang Qiong muttered to herself. She and the ghost mother of Ephemera had entered Divine Exotic City together. They had arrived in this world 2 days prior. While Jiang Qiong was healing, the ghost mother of Ephemera had said she would go to scout, but 2 days had passed, and she had not returned. Jiang Qiong was worried. Though she did not consider the ghost mother of Ephemera particularly trustworthy, Their long companionship had made her reliant on the ghost mother of Ephemera's abilities. Could the ghost mother of Ephemera be in trouble? She was so cautious. What could have ensnared her? Jiang Qiong sank into thought. If the ghost mother of Ephemera was in danger, surviving alone, let alone obtaining the immortal spirit, would be nigh impossible. Chapter 223 Gu An's fantasy. Jiang Qiong grew more uneasy the more she thought about it. She took out an elixir and started accelerating the restoration of her spiritual power. The sky darkened, and the only sound was the lava below crashing against the mountain walls, making the atmosphere incredibly oppressive. Half a day passed. Jiang Qiong's spiritual power had recovered considerably. She stood up and headed in the direction the ghost mother of Ephemera had gone earlier. Meanwhile, Liya had already mastered the power of the divine exotic city. Although he still couldn't see every corner of the city, he felt unbelievably powerful now. Before entering the divine exotic city, he had doubts about the legends of the Immortal Path's supreme treasure. How could it be that legendary? Let's go. There's a big battle outside the city. Let's go watch the fun. Liya stood up, his face full of high spirits. Zhang Buku followed him up, staring blankly at him. Liya shrugged his shoulder, and the divine exotic immortal spirit jumped out of his body, landing on his shoulder with its hands on its hips, looking very spirited. Looking at the divine exotic immortal spirit, Zhang Buku had a strange expression. It was hard to imagine that this little being was the immortal spirit of the Immortal Path's supreme treasure. Liya raised his right arm, and the divine exotic immortal spirit immediately mimicked him. Rumble. The ground trembled, and the sky changed color, making Zhang Buku look around nervously. One by one, the divine soul demons broke through the ground, lifting big trees into the sky. The same scene repeated everywhere, forcing Zhang Buku and Liya to stabilize themselves with their spiritual power. Liya laughed proudly. These are my divine army. Follow me to conquer the world. Zhang Buku looked at him, just about to speak, when suddenly the ground beneath them rose with a roar. A terrifying giant shadow stood up, holding a piece of land in its hand with a forest on it, where Zhang Buku and Liya were standing. Compared to this terrifying giant shadow, they were as small as ants. This terrifying giant shadow was the same 10,000-foot figure that had fought against the nine-fingered divine lord before. One hand held the land, and the other held an axe, looking like a giant god who opened the sky, with divine majesty spreading wide. Zhang Buku looked down, his eyes wide with shock. Liya was extremely excited. With such a divine army, how could he not sweep away all enemies? He could sense a terrifying battle outside the divine exotic city, but he also saw the disciples of the supreme sect, and he had to step forward. Primordial ancestor. This time I will be the hero. Watch me. Liya was trembling with excitement. He suddenly thought of Guin. If only junior brother Gu was here, how great that would be. Night fell and a night passed. At dawn, Guin saw Liya store the divine exotic city within himself and then, under the guidance of Nan Fengtian and others, head back to the supreme sect. They wanted to leave the continent early to avoid any mishaps. Guin arrived early at the Mystic Valley and followed the disciples in their exercises. Just as they finished, Liya came flying from the horizon, directly into the Mystic Valley. Chapter 224 Guin and Sword Venerable Fudao Mystic Valley, inside a pavilion. Thud. Liya slammed a small city onto the table. This small city was only the size of a palm, but a closer look revealed that its structure was extremely detailed and complex. It was indeed a miniature version of Divine Exotic City. He raised his chin, looking very proud. Guin looked at Divine Exotic City and curiously asked, "What kind of carved artwork is this?" Li Ya's mouth twitched, and he glared. This is divine exotic city. Upon hearing this, Gu N's face showed a look of shock, which made Li Ya feel quite pleased. But Gu N's next words almost made him faint with anger. Amazing, senior brother. You actually made a replica of divine exotic city. What replica? This is real. Don't believe me? I'll summon the immortal spirit to show you. After saying this, Li Ya tried to summon the divine exotic immortal spirit in his mind. But no matter how he called, the immortal spirit did not come out. He immediately became anxious. What's going on? Why are you pretending to be dead at such a critical moment? Gu almost burst out laughing, but fortunately, years of honing his acting skills had made them flawless. He pretended to try lifting divine exotic city with a puzzled expression. As the whole pavilion trembled, he was unable to lift the city. Could it be real? Gu muttered. Li Ya couldn't care less about cursing the divine exotic immortal spirit in his mind. He said proudly, Do you know how many great cultivators are inside divine exotic city? He began to recount his experiences, not mentioning that the immortal spirit had approached him first, but instead claiming that he had gone through various trials to win the immortal spirit's recognition. Gu listened with admiration. Who knew his acting was so good? If it weren't for me personally handing it to you, I might have believed you got it through the trials. Gu was only teasing in his mind, outwardly agreeing to satisfy Li Ya's vanity. Li Ya focused on describing his battles with the immortals from the 7-star spirit realm, making Gu exclaim in surprise from time to time. After talking for a full 2 ancient hours, Li Ya finally stopped, still somewhat unwilling to end it. How satisfying. It's always thrilling to brag with a brother. He wouldn't bother telling someone he's not close with. Seeing Gu pouring tea for him, Li Ya couldn't stop smiling. He took out a jade ruler from his storage bag, nearly 2 feet long, and greenish-white in color. This is a high-grade magic artifact. I intended to give you an immortal treasure, but your cultivation level is too low. An immortal treasure would only bring you trouble. Li Ya said seriously, then took out numerous heavenly materials and earthly treasures, placing them one by one on the table, and proceeded to accept them. Gu felt very touched. Jiang Qiong replied, In case that being really has his eyes on me, how could I refuse? Before that happens, let me fulfill you. Although Sword Venerable Fudao was strong, Gu was more important to her, even the most important. Gu crawled away, but Jiang Qiong's strength increased, making it difficult for him to reveal his true cultivation level, leaving him in a dilemma. Stop this. This isn't right. By now, Gu's robe was in disarray. Even his hair was loose, and his face was flushed with embarrassment. Jiang Qiong laughed, stopping her actions, and said, Even if you don't comply tonight, it won't matter. I will force it if necessary. You? Gu panicked. Was she really going to do this? I've never even been with my junior sisters. How could I be with you, a witch? Gu was about to call for Sword Venerable Fudao's intervention. Just then, Jiang Qiong stopped, stood up angrily, and said, Look at you, so cowardly. Strip down and get into the cauldron. Did you really think I wanted to do anything to you? I'm just preparing an excellent body-tempering concoction for you. Gu was stunned for a moment and then sighed in relief, quickly getting up. He walked past Jiang Qiong, only to get kicked in the butt by her. Hurry up and strip, Jiang Qiong said impatiently, feeling truly annoyed. In fact, she really had the impulse just now, but seeing Gu's terrified look, she couldn't bring herself to do it. This made her both embarrassed and angry. Did this kid really think so little of her? Was it because of etiquette? Jiang Qiong thought of how Gu grew up in a righteous path environment, surely respecting etiquette. She didn't respect that because she came from the demon path. With this thought, she felt much better again. After all, if he felt nothing, why did he glance down? Jiang Qiong smiled. Gu approached the medicine cauldron, quickly stripped, and then leaped into the cauldron, splashing water. It's a bit hot. Gu An's voice came from within the cauldron. Jiang Qiong said coldly, "Endure it. Are you afraid of a little pain?" Gu An remained silent, not daring to speak further. The 8 scenic caves fell into silence. After placing all the medicinal ingredients into the cauldron, Jiang Qiong took out a blood-colored tower. She sat down and inspected it carefully. Gu An poked his head out and asked, "What treasure is this?" Jiang Qiong, staring at the blood-colored tower, replied, "This is the Blood Domain Soul-Suppressing Tower, an immortal treasure. It's incredibly powerful, and I got it by sheer chance." Not far from the book collection hall, a figure blocked Gu An. It was Yu Yingying from the Star Sea congregations, disguised as a chubby man, looking jovial. "Brother Gu, how have you been lately?" Yu Yingying asked with a smile, having used the sound transmission skill to reveal her true identity to Gu An in advance. Gu An replied with a smile, "Pretty good. How about you?" He couldn't understand why Yu Yingying always enjoyed shapeshifting. What was the fun in it? Within the Supreme Sect, her reputation wasn't widespread, making her actions pointless. "I'm quite well too. Lately I've been really bored. How about I go to your medicine valley to help you out?" Yu Yingying asked. Gu An hesitated for a moment and agreed, then directed her to the 3rd medicine valley. Upon hearing this, Yu Yingying was immediately delighted and pulled Gu An towards her own residence to pack her things. "Your Supreme Sect has produced a Liya. With the support of the Star Sea congregations, you'll definitely rise to prominence. In the future, we'll at least assist you," Yu Yingying remarked as she walked, her tone slightly emotional. She had not expected that amidst the scramble of so many great cultivators, an obscure minor cultivator would gain divine exotic city's approval. As a member of the Star Sea congregations, she deeply understood the might of the fake immortal treasure, believing that Liya would undoubtedly become a significant great cultivator over the ocean. "That's great news," Gu An responded, trying to act surprised. Following this, Yu Yingying began describing those powerful Immortal Path Supreme treasures to Gu An. The Star Sea Primordial Unity banner of the Star Sea congregations was said to invert the stars and ocean within the formation, causing those who entered to become forever lost, and it could harness the power of stars and the ocean to change the course of events. The 7 stars mirror of the 7 stars spirit realm contained ancient power, under whose light nothing could hide. Gu An found this very intriguing. He wondered what cultivation level was needed to craft an Immortal Path Supreme treasure. When he reached that level, he also planned to create one, making early plans to avoid panic when the time came. Spring went and autumn came. 5 years passed quickly. After Liya took Divine Exotic City, the mainland enjoyed peace. The Supreme Sect successfully established a city overseas, with even the outer sect having a transmission array platform leading to Southern Sea City. More and more disciples began training at sea, and news from the ocean continually arrived at the Supreme Sect. Since the completion of the teleportation array in Southern Sea City, Gu An saw new things in the Outer Gate City whenever he went, making him feel like he was at a fair. In early summer, Gu An arrived at Immortal Seeking Island. Led by the servant Hu Shaojian of the Sea Protection Mansion, Gu An strolled around Immortal Seeking Island, listening to the various disturbances on the sea. The friction between the Star Sea congregations and the 7 Stars Spirit Realm is increasing. The 7 Stars Spirit Realm has gone mad, constantly invading the Star Sea congregation's territories. It's said to be related to an Immortal Path Supreme treasure from 5 years ago. On a distant continent, the 7 Stars Spirit Realm released an Immortal Path Supreme treasure for others to contest, which was eventually obtained by a minor cultivator. The Star Sea congregations then recruited that minor cultivator, thoroughly offending the 7 Stars Spirit Realm, Hu Shaojian said with a sigh. Gu An asked, why would the 7 Stars Spirit Realm release the Immortal Path Supreme treasure? He had wondered about this before, finding it very puzzling. The divine exotic immortal spirit also didn't know the reason, thinking it was because it was being too powerful, making it impossible for the 7-star spirit realm cultivators to find. So, they released Divine Exotic City. But considering it from the 7-star spirit realm's perspective, even if they couldn't conquer Divine Exotic City themselves, they shouldn't give other powers the chance. Hu Xiaojian pondered. It does seem unreasonable. Perhaps the 7-star spirit realm needed an excuse to declare war on the Star Sea congregations? But using an Immortal Path Supreme Treasure as bait seems too exaggerated. The two continued chatting as they walked. Guan wasn't worried about causing trouble with the topic since the surrounding cultivators were all discussing the conflicts between the two great maritime powers. Half a day later, Guan left Immortal-Seeking Island and arrived at Heavenly Phoenix Mountain's Nianshu Cave, bringing Tian Yaoer, Tian Qing, and Tian Bai into the Grotto Heaven. He took out the seeds he bought today and had the 3 demons plant them. Though Tian Qing and Tian Bai had not yet shapeshifted, their nimble claws made them capable of handling the planting duties. While they were planting, Guan went to the entrance of the Grotto Heaven, using his mana to create a stele, and then inscribed characters with his sword Qi. Outer World Cave. The meaning was to be forever isolated from the world. In the future, Guan wouldn't bring others here to live. This would always be his secluded Medicine Valley, specifically providing him with a longer lifespan. Because the seeds planted in the Outer World Cave were all high-rank seeds of level 7 or above, no medicinal herbs had matured yet. He wasn't in a hurry, patiently waiting. When the first batch of herbs matured, it would bring him a significant increase in lifespan, something he eagerly anticipated. 2 ancient hours later, Guan took them out of the Outer World Cave, walking along the underground passage towards Nianshu Cave. I've prepared shape-shifting elixirs for you. You can shapeshift in the next few days, Guan said as he walked ahead. Upon hearing this, Tian Qing and Tian Bai were overjoyed and hurriedly came forward to thank their master for his gift. Demons could achieve shape-shifting through their own cultivation, but the shape-shifting elixir could speed up the process and increase the success rate. If they relied on themselves for shape-shifting, failure would mean death or severe injury, similar to crossing a tribulation. Master, what about me? Tian Yaoer asked as she held Tian Bai, squeezing in beside Guan with a pitiful expression. Guan replied, I've prepared a batch of Qi blood enhancing elixirs for you. The elixirs he prepared for Tian Yaoer weren't ones he refined but were purchased on Immortal-Seeking Island, worth a fortune, and made by the top alchemy sect on the sea, the Purple Pill Palace. He wondered what Lu Lingjun had said to make this native Yu Yingying so obsessed with creating the Ascension sect. Moreover, Yu Yingying, though only in the Foundation establishment realm, had many spies at sea. Previously, Guan overheard their conversation and learned that Yu Yingying's grandfather was one of the Sea Lords of the Star Sea congregations, meaning he was at least in the Wandering Immortal realm. Guan felt quite unsettled about this. He had known Yu Yingying first, but she hadn't confided in him, instead revealing everything to Lu Lingjun. Since you two are so close, why not just soar to great heights together? Yu Yingying giggled. Of course, it's not about asking you to invite them. With your cultivation level, seeing them would be quite difficult. I'm just informing you that the framework of the Ascension sect is almost formed. Lu Lingjun nodded, saying, I plan to establish the Ascension sect outside the 3 dynasties. The Supreme Sect will also support us. To this, Guan was not surprised. The position of the Taizong dynasty was too awkward, located at the southernmost part of the continent. The spirit mines discovered by the Supreme Sect in the Demon Clan's territory were constantly plundered by other sects, preventing the sect from expanding to the north. If the Ascension sect could be established, other sects might not target it. In the future, the cooperation between the 2 sects would certainly hinder the development efforts of other sections. Regarding the sect competition in the 3 dynasties area, Guan had no intention of intervening. The Supreme Sect had not been gathering disciples or seeking Sword Venerable Fudeo's help, as both the Venerable Pavilion and the Hall of Elders were harboring pent-up frustrations, determined to elevate the Supreme Sect to the foremost sect among the 3 dynasties. Lu Lingjun said, I plan to personally head south. I'm just letting you know so you won't wonder where I went. Guin said, you don't need to report your whereabouts to me. Ha! Lu Lingjun glanced at him, her gaze slightly cold. Guin pouted and said no more. Yu Yingying began excitedly detailing the information on the ascenders. There were 5 in total, 3 males and 2 females, residing on an island within the Star Sea Congregation's domain. The weakest among them had reached the Unification Realm, with 2 having reached the Mystic Heart Realm. There were actually many ascenders overseas. Once they understood the survival rules of this world, they no longer hid their origins. After all, cultivators here couldn't ascend to the lower realms, and they weren't interested in the lower realms. Guin listened attentively, contemplating the impact if the Ascension sect truly established itself in the immortal cultivation world on the continent. Ascenders might not have the highest cultivation, but their survival skills and temperament were formidable. Knowing the reason, Guin stopped worrying. Liya had been with the Star Sea congregations for over 5 years. If they had intended to harm him, they would have done so long ago. It seemed the congregations genuinely wanted to nurture him. Guin withdrew his gaze and continued studying the Ziwei Array Chronicles in his hand. Time continued to pass. An hour later, boom! A deafening roar from afar interrupted Guin's thoughts once again. What's special about today? Why is there so much commotion? Guin muttered quietly, sending his divine sense towards the source of the sound. Before long, his expression changed dramatically. Reflected in his pupils was an endless ocean. At this moment, a gigantic fissure appeared in the ocean, continuously expanding. The seawater furiously rushed into the fissure, forming a spectacular waterfall. The deep fissure stretched for miles. Guin sensed other divine senses being drawn to the ocean fissure and many cultivators heading towards it. The ocean was to the west of the continent. Guin's divine sense traveled a long way, discovering the fissure extended for tens of thousands of miles and was still growing, seemingly dividing the ocean in 2. Strangely, despite the seawater pouring into the fissure, the sea level didn't drop but maintained its majestic sight. Fortunately, the ocean fissure was far from the continent, with a landmass in between. Guin retracted his divine sense and continued reading, planning to visit Immortal Seeking Island later for information. On Immortal Seeking Island, Guin could always hear various significant oceanic events. Late at night, Guin arrived at Nianshu Cave, walking towards the stone table. As soon as his footsteps sounded, 2 fragrances greeted him. Next, his arms were embraced, sinking into softness. Master! Greetings, Master! 2 enchanting women clung to Guin's arms, one in a blue dress, the other in a white dress. They had graceful figures and delicate features, gazing at Guin with eyes like rippling water. They were Tianqing and Tianbai after shape-shifting. Guin, wearing a mask, asked, "What's that smell on you?" Tianqing tilted her head and said, "It's a special water Miss made. It gives off a distinctive fragrance, masking our demon scent, so Master won't dislike us." Guin remained silent, inwardly satisfied. The newly shape-shifted Tianqing and Tianbai indeed had a foul demon scent, which made him reluctant to be close to them before. Allowing them to hold him, Guin walked towards the small building. The 2 cat demons chattered non-stop, just like Tian Yaoer. Soon, Tian Yaoer emerged from the house, beaming as she approached Guin, expecting praise. Unfortunately, Guin didn't mention the fragrance but asked about her cultivation progress. Guin had no choice but to stand guard at the mansion's entrance. LV Badian flew over. Seeing Guin, he immediately approached him. Facing the sect leader, Guin did not conceal anything. He explained the origin of the Taoist expansion skill and revealed that the reason Yilan's breakthrough caused such a stir was that he had poured all the medicinal herbs he had obtained over the years into elixirs for her. LV Badian had heard of the Taoist expansion skill. Wuxia was now a key figure beside Li Xiandao, and the power of the Taoist expansion skill had already spread in the immortal cultivation world. He hadn't expected Guan to be so sentimental. He knew that Guan possessed 3 medicine valleys, and the quantity of medicinal herbs he obtained yearly was immense. That he would pour it all into Yilan was astonishing. I'll handle this. You can wait here in peace, LV Badian said, and then signaled to LV Songhan. He had LV Songhan proclaim that a great cultivator at the Divinity Transformation Realm was practicing in the mansion, and no one was to disturb. A Foundation Establishment Realm cultivator reaching the Divinity Transformation Realm in 2 days would indeed cause a huge stir, but if it was a Divinity Transformation Realm cultivator practicing, the impact would be much less. Guan stood and waited in front of the mansion. Until evening, when Yilan's aura calmed, LV Songhan finally led his people away. Guan entered the mansion and walked toward Yilan's room. Standing in front of the door, he waited. "Senior brother, why don't you come in?" Yilan's voice came from inside the room. Guan took a deep breath and pushed the door open. His gaze was immediately drawn to Yilan on the bed. He quickly performed a lifespan detection. Yilan, Divinity Transformation Stage 5th level 117/600/600. Only 600 years of lifespan? Guan frowned, his heart sinking. Yilan opened her eyes, looked at him, and smiled. "Senior brother, I've reached the Divinity Transformation Realm. It's incredible." She was very excited, unaware that her lifespan was only 600 years. In her understanding, living 1,000 years at the Divinity Transformation Realm was not difficult, and she believed her cultivation would grow higher in the future. The primordial reincarnation skill could extend the maximum lifespan but couldn't ensure that the practitioner's lifespan increased with breakthroughs. After all, this skill was meant to defy fate. Guan smiled and said, "Really? That's great, junior sister. You'll have to look after me from now on." Yilan laughed. "The technique is yours. When you release your cultivation, you'll definitely be more powerful than I am." Guan hadn't practiced the primordial reincarnation skill, but hearing her say this, he had no choice but to agree. Yilan got up and sat at the table with Guan, starting to talk about her breakthrough experiences. Guan, meanwhile, pondered how to help Yilan achieve enlightenment.